against domestic violence, and we survivors have a voice. Please welcome our hosts, JT, Stephanie, and Jen.
Welcome to episode 7 of the Fortified podcast. Talking with Steph. She's going to be finishing up her story. We're going to be transitioning from talking about Jonah to talking about Chad. And Chad is a stage name. We're going to protect the guilty here and not use real names.
There you go.
No, so we're going to be talking about Chad, but there's like a transition. Like there's transition time because at this point Steph is still married to Jonah. They're going through some rough stuff because Jonah thinks his band is more important than his child and his spouse. So he's got some growing up to do. Steph is finally realizing that he himself is still a child and he needs to grow up. So, but she starts talking with an old friend, I guess, that we talked about a little bit in episode 5. This friend Chad is the same guy that she asked to go to Florida, move to Florida with her, and he's like, "Yep, I'm going." And they weren't in Florida only for a couple days before I got wind of it and went down and said, "Nope, Steph, you're coming with me. Chad, you're staying here in Florida. Here's a little bit of money. You figure it out." So we're back to Chad now because he's now back in the picture a couple years later.
Yep.
And so we're going to continue on with the story. Steph's still married to Jonah. They're just not together. And Chad is the consoling friend. And we'll kind of take it from there. My first question, and I don't know if this comes now or this comes later. You can decide, Steph, when you want to say this, but I want to know at this point, are y'all like, did you and Jonah make the decision together? Like, yeah, we should probably not be together. Did you just kind of bounce? Was there divorce right away? What, like, where,
Right.
Take it from there.
Right. So,
Logistics.
yeah, this, I definitely did all of the wrong things. I was so checked out emotionally from our relationship that I just chalked it up to we have been abandoned by Jonah, not we were still together and living in our apartment in Downingtown, Pennsylvania. But at this point, I was emotionally checked out. I was done with the relationship. After a combination of things and certain arguments we had, I knew that nothing was going to change, and I needed to, at this point, protect our son from walking in his father's footsteps. So I was already emotionally checked out, and I decided one day, just a random day, that I was going to text my ex-boyfriend, Chad. Chad and I had known each other since he was 17 and I was 20. We were friends for a really long time. We dated for a brief period of time in 2012. And now I was talking to him again because he had always been somebody who, whenever I would reach back out to, it was like we were like best friends again. We could joke around about anything. He just made me laugh and he made me feel good. And at this point, I was such a shell of a person. I was drinking every day. I mean, like I would wake up and start drinking because my addiction and alcoholism was so bad at this point that I would literally have the shakes if I didn't drink in the morning. So I was getting really bad into my addiction. So I would wake up in the morning, take a couple shots just to make the shakes go away. And then later on in the night is when I would do most of my drinking. But so it was bad. I was a shell of a person. I just didn't care about anything anymore. So I started to talk to Chad, and this is while Jonah and I were still together. Jonah and I had not had a conversation about breaking up, splitting up, anything like that. As far as we both knew we were just kind of pulling away from each other slowly and not really talking about it. Like I could feel it happening, and I'm assuming that he could feel it happening too, but I'm not 100% sure what was going on in his mind at that time. We'll definitely get to find that out. But I started off these conversations with Chad just as friends. I was like, hey, how are you? And it was the typical pleasantries we did first. And then we started talking. I started telling him about my relationship and how upset I was and how I was being treated and stuff. And he kind of just came across as this like knight in shining armor, this like, I would never treat you that way, and this, that, and the third. And I believed him because he'd had this almost borderline obsession over being with me. Um, Basically since he was 17, and these are by his own words. He said that he's wanted to be with me since he was 17, and that's something that he's always said. So I thought in my head, I was like, and I remember saying this to you, Jen, one time. I was like, I know it's, I said something like, I know it's not the best circumstances, but at least he'll be nice to me. Like, at least Chad will be nice to me. I just wanted somebody to be nice to me at this point. That's how low I was. And so these conversations started turning flirtatious, and I had made the decision that I was going to divorce Jonah. I just didn't know when to tell him. I was putting it off. I didn't know. I was too nervous to sit down and have that conversation. Well, that conversation was kind of had for me. And it's because Chad, after we were talking for a little bit, we made plans to try to hang out, just as friends and stuff. And we ended up uh, hanging out close to the end of the summer in 2017. Um, and then after we hung out, we were just like, we just picked up like it was just like we were best friends again. And I was joking around with him. And so he was my best friend again. And now I was getting through the days a little bit better while still together with Jonah, but he's kind of doing his own thing with the band and I'm doing my own thing. So eventually we got to a point, this is important. We got to a point that we were being kicked out of our apartment. We were being evicted from our apartment because we were so behind on rent. And so I don't remember, it was in the summer of 2017. So we got evicted from our apartment. I ended up moving back in with my parents in I think in August of 2017, and Jonah moved in back with his buddies that he had lived with before when we were separated for a few months, and I was living with the people that I nannied for. So right, so we we're living in two different places, and for like half a second, we were going to try to work on our marriage. And by half a second, I mean like we had a conversation about it, and then like nothing nothing came from that. I ended up just being really mad at him all the time. I was just mad that that he wasn't really being a good like parent at the time. He wasn't helping me with any kind of finances for Ender while we were living apart, while he was living with his friends and I was living back at my parents' house after the eviction. I remember one time I asked him for money to get diapers, and he said he didn't have any money for diapers. And I completely lost it and just broke down that you didn't have $9 to send me money for diapers. And at this time, I didn't have a job, right? Because we were just evicted from the apartment in Downingtown. And so I had to move back with my parents, and it was too far for me to drive to go to my nanny position. So I ended up telling them that I can't work for them anymore. So right now I don't have a job. I'm completely dependent on my parents at the time to help me out and Jonah. And Jonah wasn't sending me any money whatsoever. He didn't have the money to send, he said, because all of his money went towards his self-medication for his back pain. So, right, he just we were just falling apart very, very, very fast. And so while I was living with my parents' house, at my parents' house, um, me and Chad were closer together in proximity. So I would go to our friend's house, Devin, who lived about an hour away, went to our friend Devin's house, and I would just hang out with him there. And I took Ender there, and it was just like, I don't know, 1, 2, 3. It was like a 3 or 4 bedroom house. So I would often spend the night there too. Um, but that was later on. That wasn't right away. So I was home at my parents' house for probably, I don't know, maybe a month. Before I really started hanging out at Devin's house more. I think I basically started slowly moving my stuff into Devin's house over a period of a few months before I ended up just basically staying there and not at my parents' house anymore. My parents' house basically just had most of my stuff there, and like I would go to visit and stuff, but I wasn't really living there. So at this point, Jonah and I are still technically together. And this was a night when I was over at Devin's house and I was staying the night, and all 3 of us were drinking. It was just bad news bears. All 3 of us were drinking. Well, at some point in the night, I ended up going to bed, and I found out the next day that Chad had been texting Jonah via my phone as me, asking him for a divorce. So that is how that came about. I just woke up the next morning and I had all of these missed text messages from Jonah and some other people. And I was like, what happened? And I asked Chad about it, and he said it needed to be done. And I was
My
like,
goodness, that should have been your first clue.
Red
I
flag? Can anybody tell
know.
you?
Let me just
Jeez
take let me just
Louise.
take control of your marriage, even though it's crap right now, but let me take control and do what you should be doing.
Yes,
Wow.
exactly.
Dang.
Yeah.
Where was Ender with all this? Like, because you say you're back and forth with Chaz. Was he just staying with our parents?
Well, he was either with us, or I would meet either Jonah or his parents halfway between where we lived and where they lived. And they would take Ender for like a week here and there, or a weekend, or a few days. So yeah, Ender wasn't always with me, and I don't believe he was with us that night, because we all got pretty crazy. So I believe that Ender was um at Jonah's parents' house at this point. But you know what, he could have been it doesn't
I
matter.
think he was with mom and dad a lot too.
I was gonna say he could have
And-
been with
and our
our
younger
parents
sisters.
too.
Younger sisters kind of took them and did stuff with them and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, they definitely helped out a lot, especially when I was just acting a fool. They really came in clutch and helped take care of Ender, where I was just failing miserably as a mother.
But but Chad took your phone,
Yes.
texted your husband,
Yes.
asking your husband for a divorce on your behalf.
Right. Mhm. Yeah. So it was crazy. Like when I woke up the next day to those messages, I instantly went to the nearest bottle I could find and I just took a couple chugs. I was like, I cannot deal with this right now. So I'm just gonna go back into my drunken stupor and not process this. So that was bad. I ended up having to finish the conversation with Jonah. And so I was like, yeah, he's like, is this something is this what you really want? Blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, yes, this is what I really want. I do want a divorce. And I remember Jonah asking me, he's like, I just need to know why, like, what is the one thing like that ended us? And I said, it's your problem with anger. Um, and that I just kind of like left it at that. And that conversation kind of fizzled out as I was taking more shots because I wanted to pretend it didn't happen. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm officially getting divorced. I am going to,
Free.
I'm just like, and then I was like, I'm just going to drink this away and make this like, so I don't have to think about it for a few days. So I did. And then afterwards, when we were all sobered up and everything, I don't really remember asking Chad like why you did that. I don't remember exactly what that conversation was like, aside from him saying it it needed to be done. Like he would often say that whenever he would say something harsh or do something harsh, he would just flat out say it needed to be done or it needed to be said. And it's like, no, it
So
didn't.
kind of like the tough love approach without the love part.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
He's
Tough
one
love
of
in
those
name,
yeah,
but not
he's
practice.
yes, exactly. And you're supposed to tell the truth in love. And he's one of those people that's just like, no, the truth is the truth. It doesn't matter how you say it, you just say it. And I'm like, okay, well, if I gave you some truths about yourself, I'm pretty sure you would be kind of upset if I didn't do it in a loving way. Like if I was just like, you're a liar and you're a cheater and you're like, that's not gonna fly. But whatever. That happened. So I'm officially now getting divorced. Everything and then everything with Chad started moving really fast. He he proposed to me like almost right out the gate. We had we had gone we had plans to go to one of our favorite bands. Um and we were going to a concert. Well, he somehow managed to talk to all the right people to get the band to ask us to come up on stage for something. And so I'm in the crowd, right? We're at a concert. So, of course, any opportunity to drink, I'm going to be there. So I'm already like super buzzed, right? We're in the middle of this crowd and the band's about to start playing. And all of a sudden, the lead singer comes on and he's like, I'm looking for a Chad and a Stephanie. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, what is happening right now? Calls us up on stage. We're on stage at the Electric Factory in Philadelphia. There's like, I don't know, 300 people maybe in the crowd. Chad gets on and starts telling a story of how this has been our favorite band since we met when I was 20 and he was 17, and how they've gotten us through so much. And then he looked back at me and he proposed to me on stage in front of all of those people. And it was really fast. Like in my mind, that was way too fast. And I would have said, like, no, not yet. Like, yes, but like, no, not yet. Like, this is way too fast. It was only like a couple months after us really starting to date. And so I mean, like in front of all those people, I was drunk and nervous. Of course, I was like, yes, absolutely. There's a video of it somewhere on YouTube. Um, Crazy. Yeah, I'll have to find that video sometime and show you guys.
I
I was
mean,
gonna say, what
super
is that?
fast.
What was that
yeah.
concert and what year was it? I want to look this thing up.
I mean, if
Yeah.
I
that
want to see
makes
this.
that makes sense. The entire thing makes sense in my head, like the entire scenario. Okay, I'm a narcissistic person, and I'm totally infatuated and obsessed with this other person. And by nature, we're talking about now Jonah and Chad. I think they're two. They're not the same personality, but there are some differences of the personality. So that we're talking about Chad, which is a completely different personality than Jonah. So if I'm in Chad's shoes and I'm going, okay, these are all the things that I'm going to do. I'm going to lock that down as fast as possible because I need to be in control. So I'm going to control that getting locked down. So of course, my whole goal from the beginning has been to be with this person, that I'm head over heels for. And that's my entire goal in life. That's my whole mission ever since Florida. It's been my mission to be with her. And then she got married. I'm like, oh, but then she texted me a couple years later out of nowhere, which revived the hope of now there's hope, right? Because now her relationship is strained, and I can help get her through this, and I can even help get her out of this. So I'm going to get her drunk. I'm going to text on the phone, blah, blah, blah. Okay. First mission accomplished. Okay. Second mission. I need to lock this down while she's in rebound mode. Okay. So she already drinks. I don't need to actually, I don't need to work at, get her drunk and make her an alcoholic so she's more pliable. She's already got
there.
that. Okay.
Already
That's
there.
no problem. That's easy. All right. So now I'm going to go to the band. I'm going to go through the whole thing. I'm going to act all sweet and all that stuff, which in normal circumstances, you date somebody for a year or two, whatever, they're the right person, blah, blah, blah. That would be a cool way to get proposed to. But,
Yeah.
in a matter of weeks, I'm assuming weeks, maybe a month or so. I don't know how much time went on, but it was a short amount of time. But what you said, I'm going to talk to the band, get you on stage. Now you feel trapped because, like, if you say no, like
Awkward.
So I'm going to get you on stage in public key, getting you on video in public and band saying yes. And now I've locked you in. Like, it totally makes sense why a controlling, narcissistic, person who is an expert at coercive control I would go about it that way. Sorry, that was just my observation.
Yeah, no, that's a great observation, and you hit a lot of the main abuse tactics that he used. He definitely knew I was in a vulnerable state, and he wanted to make sure, because he was very possessive, he wanted to make sure what he thought was his remained his. So yeah, so that was me. I was just a piece of property to him. I was his. So of course he had to make sure that we got engaged as fast as possible. And it's not like he was like rushing. He wasn't exactly rushing getting married as fast as possible, because I still technically had to get divorced. And I actually stayed married to Jonah. We were just separated. I ended up staying married to him until years after we had split up. Like, Jonah and I both had separate relationships at this point. He was dating someone, I was dating someone, and we still stayed married on paper because I couldn't afford to. In my mind, I couldn't afford to get a divorce. Like, in my mind, I was like, this is going to cost like thousands of dollars, and I just don't have that right now. At this time,
You wanted the tax advantage.
probably, yeah, just like that makes sense. So in my mind, I couldn't afford to get divorced, and we were saving up for that. But at the time, all of our money was basically going to rent and food and stuff. And like I said, we were living with our friend Devin, so the rent wasn't too bad being split between. It was being split between the men, and I was just me and Ender were just kind of like, we just kind of moved in, and I did not have a job at this time. I was just kind of living with Devin and Chad, and it seemed to be okay. Like Chad seemed to be totally fine with it. I was like, is it okay that I'm not working right now? Because if I start working, we're barely going to get to see each other because I'm going to be working like an hour away. And and so he was just like, no, I don't need you to work right now. I make enough money for both of us. So he assured me, which later he took back, but he assured me that it was totally fine that that I didn't have a job. Later on, he ends up telling me that he added up all the money that me and Ender cost him, and part of it was me not working. He said he was keeping track of all, and he wasn't, but he said I've gone back and kept track, and you guys cost me like $30,000 to $40,000 for for the time that we dated. I was like, do you want to send me like an invoice? What are you doing?
Can I
Yeah,
spread that
right?
over 12 months? Can it be same as cash?
Seriously, it was so weird. But so I didn't have a job at the time. And so this is 2017 going into 2018. And so this is the first year of Chad and I being together. And for the first year, to me, it was all sunshine and rainbows because whenever something bad would happen, like say him texting my husband and asking for a divorce on my behalf, whenever something like that would happen, I would just bury it in alcohol so I wouldn't remember it the next day. Because in my mind, now I have said I'm getting a divorce. I always told God and myself I would never get a divorce because I never wanted to do never wanted our kids to go through that, or our son to go through that. And so I was in a really bad place. And so uh the drinking definitely, let's just say we were partying like a lot. So we would just go out to restaurants and just, you know, go wherever, hang out at the mall, do what normal couples do. And some of the abuse started happening towards the end of 2018. It gets sprinkled in. So this is what happens in abusive relationships. Like at first, it's all sunshine and rainbows. You're in the love bombing stage, but then you head into a devaluation stage, and that's basically where there will start to be little fights or things said under their breath, or just these like little not hiccups, like that. It's so hard to explain, just like these little problematic instances that would happen, and I would just put them out of my mind. But one of the ones that really made me think, and it made me think a lot, because for the majority of the night I was sober, so I was actually thinking clearly this night. I had made plans to go visit one of my younger sisters at the time. We were going to make dinner together and just have, a catch up sesh. And so I had told Chad this. I was like, listen, I'm going to go out with my sister, whatever, next Friday night. And I'm probably going to be there. Like, we're going to have dinner. I'm probably going to be there until like, 9:30, 10. And then I'll drive the hour back to where you are. Well, the night comes and he's planning on working that night. Like that was the whole plan. So he goes into work and I go and visit our sister. And I'm at our sister's for probably an hour and a half. And he sends me a text message saying that he is actually he got cut from work. So he was a bartender at a restaurant, and his shift had ended early that night. And he wanted me to come and pick him up. And I was like, but I'm hanging out with my sister tonight. I'm not going to be able to come pick you up. It was about a 10-minute walk um, from the restaurant to back to Devin's house. So like, and he usually walked. So I didn't understand what the deal was tonight, but tonight it was a problem. And he went right into the, after everything I've done for you, you won't come and pick me up. Like, I can't believe this. Like, this is ridiculous. I thought I meant more to you than this. And it totally threw me off because I thought we were all sunshine and rainbows. And so this kind of coming out of left field, I was like, okay, what, like, literally what is happening right now? And so I ended up telling our sister, I was like, I'm so sorry. I was like, but I have to go. Something is happening and I'm not sure what it is. So I end up driving all the way there to go and pick him up from work just to find that he walked home anyways. I was like,
Without telling you.
right. He just walked home with, so I met him at the house and I was like, hey, I came to pick you up. He was like, oh, I just walked home. It's no big deal. And I'm like,
Why did you make
But-
it such a big deal on the phone then?
but you did make it a big deal. And this was like my first, maybe not my first, but the one that I really remember, introduction to like the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. I was
Yeah.
like, you were so upset on the phone. And he was like, no, I wasn't. And then he was just like, you can't tell tone in text message. And I was like, but okay. And so I was like, okay, I just want to have a good night. So we're just gonna drop it. And so little things like that started happening. Like in a fight, he would call me a contemptuous woman. And just like these random like names. And I'm like, what are you think that about me? Like, what are you talking about? And so this started happening a little bit towards the end of 2018. And in 2018 is also, let me see, 2019.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That would've been-
2018 is when Chad and we moved out of Devin's house. So and we moved into, oh my gosh, this was not a safe place. We should have never been living here. We ended up moving into some guy's basement that that he found on Craigslist. Sounds like a serial killer. Yeah. So he
Yeah.
found some guy renting a room. And so we basically went and rented that room, or he rented that room from this guy. And it was a 1-bedroom little like mini apartment in this guy's basement. It was so janky. We lived there for a while. And then in and then things started to get bad when we were getting ready to move. So my drinking had been really bad. His was just as bad because we were both doing it together. And he ended up telling our landlord that I had a drinking problem. And so I guess the landlord, see, I don't really know what happened because I'm just hearing this from Chad. So he told me that the landlord kicked us out because of my drinking. Now, that story has changed several times. At first, we were not getting kicked out. Chad had gone to our landlord and said, hey, we will be out in a month. You can find somebody else. And he said
He
that to
did.
him. He did say that to him in, I think it was maybe November of 2018. And so December's going and I'm like, hey, you told him that we needed to find a place and we haven't found a place yet. Do you want to maybe ask him if we can stay an extra month? And he was like, yeah, sure, no problem. So I guess they had a conversation and the landlord was like, I already found a new tenants. Like, you guys got to get out by December 31st, 2018. So we had nowhere to go. I still did not have a job. And I didn't feel comfortable going back to my parents' house at that point because
One, they didn't like Chad. None of the
Yes,
family
they
liked
did not.
him. I mean, you couldn't bring him back
Nobody.
there.
Yeah,
So-
nobody liked Chad, and I didn't feel comfortable going back there. One, I felt guilty for all of the stuff that I had done and for the way that I used them and stuff, used them for their house, and I took advantage of their generosity and kindness. I really butchered that relationship, so I didn't feel comfortable going back to their house.
Yeah. And by this time, the kids and I were there anyway. So
Yeah.
if
Oh,
you
yeah,
had
you're right.
come
So we wouldn't
back,
even. Mhm.
I don't, like I'm sure we would have figured it out, but like
Right.
I don't know
There
what
was
we
no
would have
space.
done.
There was no space. There's no space for us. So we have this problem, right? We need a place to leave. To live. We literally have like 2 weeks before we're getting kicked out. We had nowhere to go, and at the time, we couldn't get our own lease because I didn't have a job. And so to get a lease, you have to make 3 times the amount of rent, and we didn't have the income to show that. Um because Chad got paid a lot under the table, so it was just like basically his word, and it wasn't on his pay stubs how like the amount of money that he was making. So we were about to be homeless, um, and then we ended up talking to Chad's mom. Chad's mom lives in Ohio with her husband, and she, of course, was like, "Why don't you guys move here? Like, you can stay with us for a little bit until you get back on your feet, and then you can get an apartment out here for a period of time." And at that point, I did not want to leave Pennsylvania. I did not want to take um, Ender away from his father. I didn't want to be away from my family, even though we weren't on the best terms. I didn't want to leave, and I felt like I had nowhere else to go, and that we had to move. Um, so we ended up making the decision like a week before we had to get out of our old place, that we were going to be moving in with his mom and her husband, and then just going from there. So that's exactly what we did, and we kind of sprung this on everybody last minute. We're like, "Hey, we're moving to Ohio. See you, bye."
Yeah.
It was and I think I basically just sent text messages to people, and I tried to explain it the best I could, but of course everyone was hurt, everyone was upset, and I totally understand that. Some family members said that I was basically abandoning them there, and it was such a hard choice, but I felt like at the time we didn't have anywhere else to go. So we moved in with his mom and her husband, and we stayed there for, I don't know, maybe a month, or maybe a month or two. As soon as we got to Ohio in January of 2019, we instantly started looking for jobs. I we
I'm
both
sorry.
got
I'm
what? Go
sorry.
ahead.
You made a
What's
face, and I
funny?
thought it was because I was laughing. But I'm
Oh,
laughing because we didn't even know what was going on with each other, and we were moving to Ohio like the same week or like within a week apart of each other.
y-
And
yeah,
it's crazy
that
how
is
like the
crazy.
timelines just overlap like that. And
Yeah.
yeah, this whole time you're talking, I'm like going back to that. And I think
You're like, where
I
was
think
I?
because I don't think I don't think I was one of the ones that you texted. I don't remember.
Right.
Because I feel like I saw a Facebook post with, like,
Yeah.
your car being everything you had left that you couldn't sell in your car, and Ender was, like, buried, and he was, like, this little thing
Yes.
peeking out, and I think
Yeah.
that's how I found out, and I remember going to Bill and being like, "Oh my gosh, like, they're gonna live, like, I don't know, 45 minutes or an hour away from us. Like, we could get together
Yeah.
with them." I was so excited, but of course that didn't matter because I didn't see you for
I
I don't even know
know.
when until all of that
Yeah.
calmed down. But anyway, continue.
Yeah. So all right, so we're in January 2019. Chad and I both get jobs working at the local Cracker Barrel as servers. So we're both bringing in full-time work, steady as steady of a paycheck as you can as a server. We kind of balanced each other out. And so with us both having jobs and in the month of January, actually on my birthday in 2019, that's when I took a pregnancy test and found out that I was pregnant with Chad and I's son, Dorian. So
Plot twist.
so we left Pennsylvania, got to Ohio. A little over a week later, I find out that I'm pregnant. And I think me finding out that I'm pregnant was like, was for Chad's mom and husband okay, we need to get them their own place, like ASAP. We need to get them out of here. Not that they were kicking us out, but like we needed our own place. So Chad's mom helped us find a place, and she even put up money for our first year of rent so that we could afford to live there on Cracker Barrel money. So she paid that whole first year. She ended up paying $200 a month towards our rent for this house that we ended up getting. Oh my gosh, I loved this house. It was like the biggest house I'd ever rented. It was a duplex, and it had a backyard and it had a basement, and I was just like in heaven.
Yeah.
So when we
it was
first
a nice
moved,
place.
yeah. So when we first moved into this place, it was like, okay, whenever there was something new happening, it was always like a honeymoon period. So on January 9th, we found out that I was pregnant with Dorian. So that was a super happy time. And then in February-ish, maybe March, we got our new place. And so that was a really happy time. So everything was exciting for a little while. And and so during my pregnancy, for a few months, things were fantastic. Like I wasn't drinking, he wasn't drinking. Like for a couple months, like there was no alcohol whatsoever in the house. And I was like, oh my gosh, like everything's going to be great after this. Like I can never go back to drinking. Like we can just live our lives now. And that is definitely not what happened. Added, I want to try to remember when things started going downhill. I might have to go tell the children, yeah, they're slamming doors. And my children are slamming doors.
That's fine. Go tell the children. I have
Okay,
some
okay.
observations.
Okay.
So while she's doing that, like, yeah, the time where you and Bill were coming, you're in Ohio, and then I had learned, I don't even know when I learned that Steph was in Ohio as well. But yeah, the timing of that seemed to, I mean, coincidental, or I mean, looking back, at now, it's like, well, I don't know. I guess you can even make the case that, God's hand was in all of that, knowing what he does and how he positions things and moves people's lives.
And we both needed to be in Ohio. We both needed to be here for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. She got to Ohio, and I'm trying to think, because her thing was that she was trying to think of when it started to get bad for her. And I can't even remember when I started to get involved as far as like knowing that things were actually bad. I can't even remember the time where, so to Steph's point, I can't remember.
We didn't know that anything was awry with her and Chad until after Bill was out of the picture. And me and the kids were living back with you and Amanda.
Okay.
And then I remember going to her baby shower, and this was after Bill was out of the picture. And I remember going to the baby shower and seeing them together and being so jealous and being like, why can't Bill just treat me like this? Why can't
It was fake.
our relationship be like this. It was so cute. You guys were taking pictures and like you guys were just such a cute couple. And I was just like, man, just stinks that it had to end like that with me and
Yeah.
Bill. But I don't remember either when we first started learning that things were not that picture perfect.
Mhm.
I remember when I had enough and, was like, I don't care what you say, Steph, I'm coming to get you.
Coming to get you. But she
But
was right. Like,
that was down the line a bit.
she was right. Like, about, they were like, we don't know where to go. We don't do the whole apartment. Chad just, we know what happened. He just dissed on his responsibilities or with that property manager. But like, oh, we can't move back in with our parents. We burned that bridge. And then she's right. Nobody liked him. Everybody had a bad feeling about this dude from the get-go. So
Right.
like, even I wasn't even sold on the guy based on just what the hour or so that I spent with him down in Florida at dinner time. And I remember having, when I came and got you in Florida and you were back in Michigan. Now, for timeline's sake for the audience, we're backing up a few years because I'm going to reference something from a few years prior. When I went to Florida to go pick up Steph because she went down there with Chad, and that was dumb. So I went down there to go. I'm like, nope, you're coming back. You're living with me in Michigan.
Right.
Left Chad in Florida, gave him some money, said, figure it out. You're a big boy. I remember when you were in Michigan, Chad was still like, he managed to make it home. And then you would be like, can Chad come visit? And everything in my body was like, no, he can't. He is a bag. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
but I allowed it and I regretted that. And I just remember having like conversations with him at night in the living room in Michigan about like, it wasn't about dumb stuff. It was, but the way he would respond to questions and the way like that, nothing really came of those talks, like nothing beneficial. It was just like me trying to give a little bit of advice and him just trying to turn it around and be like, well, no, let me give you some advice. Like, but in a way that wasn't like demeaning. It was just like comparing of experiences and figuring out who had the worst life and who learned the most things. And I was just like, nothing ever came about it. And even like now fast forwarding to present day, and now I'm going to fast forward a little bit in the future when I would go out for lunch with him. Cause I would try, like I would try to be like, all right, maybe I can work on this dude and maybe I can get him to come around. So at least he's at least pleasant and not such a bag. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just remember the conversations at Cracker Barrel and stuff. He was just like, it's like talking to a brick wall. And then the way he would respond. And then
the brick wall talking back.
And then the brick wall talking back and not making
acting like it knew how to be a human.
Yeah, acting like it knew how to be a human. And then not only acting like he knew how to be a human, but acted like he was some superior human with his knowledge and experience. I mean, I digress and I'm going to stop complaining. I never liked the dude to begin with. So we'll go back to present.
Long story short, we didn't like him.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. A lot. Like nobody liked him. Yeah. So
that's a good point. Amanda said he used big words and he used big words wrong.
Yes.
Like, he would use words like, hey, you're being so indubiously naive. And you're like, what is it dubiously? And you look it up and you're like, that is not what that word means. And and funny story, sorry. I remember like one time we were in a conversation and I said, irregardless. And for years, this was back in Michigan, I said, well, irregardless of that fact, it's really just regardless of the fact. But I said, irregardless. Right. And he was like, for years, he would poke at me, be like, and he would text me, he'd be like, irregardless, like going back to the time where I said the word wrong.
Irregardless.
Yes.
And he'll probably still say it to this day. Like
he does. Yes, he does.
Your brother said irregardless.
I
Okay,
know.
and dubiously. Oh,
And
anyway.
dubiously. Yeah, he
Oh,
definitely
man.
used a lot of big words, but not entirely in their correct form. Like it's like I don't think the word that you're using means what you
Means
think
what you
it
think it's
means.
using. I'm sorry.
Right.
I'm sorry.
It's
One more
just
thing.
like
I got to get this out of my chest. I got to get it out. I got to get it out. I'm sorry. It's our podcast. I can say what I want, whatever. So I have said in the past, I said, you know what, most narcissistic people, most abusers, most 90% of these people are intelligent, smart human beings. Chad is an idiot. Just going to throw that out there. So
He
he's
is
a very
not
good
one of them.
he's a very good guitar player, but that's about all he can do good in life. Sorry, I'm done. Keep talking. I'll shut up.
okay. So, anyways, we're in 2019 in Ohio working at Cracker Barrel. I'm pregnant. Life is going good during my pregnancy. And then our main fights at this point turned um, from us to the issues that Chad was having, ongoing issues that Chad was having with his mother. So the ongoing issues, I could basically like tell a story almost word for word of what he would say because I've heard it so many times. So often, abusers don't let things go. They hold grudges and they will just. I say that Chad has a backpack that he just throws all of his information into there and he holds grudges for the longest time. So the ongoing fights that we were having were about how like his mother was treating him this way, or his mother said this, or he didn't like the way his mother had this tone with him. And so we were just arguing about, and also it was about things that his mother did or did not do, like decades prior. He would still bring that up. She doesn't admit to this and she doesn't admit to this. She needs to own up to what she said 27,000 years ago. Like he would just not let anything go. So it got to a point where I was like, I'm pregnant. I'm pulling the pregnant card. I cannot be stressed out like this. Like we are no longer talking about your mother in this house. Like if you start talking about her, I will just let you talk, but I am not participating in the conversation at all. And so he was like, he agreed. He was like, no, that's probably a good idea. Yeah, we should less toxicity in the house. We need to be more positive. He would say that often. We just need to be more positive. Be more positive. You just be more positive your way out of anything. And so we were getting towards the end of the pregnancy. And I remember, I don't know if I told this story or not. I remember we were getting ready to go to one of my prenatal appointments, and Ender at the time was 3 years old. And so I said to Chad, I was like, hey, Ender needs to get his socks and shoes on while I'm getting these things together, and then we can go. And so Chad took it upon himself to have a teaching moment with Ender at this point. And like, so we're running short on time. I'm like, we got to go. We don't have time to have like a life lesson. But what was happening is Ender was struggling to put on his socks all by himself, right? He's 3 years old and the socks, he just couldn't maneuver his fingers the right way to like bunch them up so you can actually put the sock on. And so he was having trouble. And I was saying from the other room, can you please just put his socks on for him? We don't have time for this. And that was not a good idea. So I said that, and we ended up getting in the car to drive to drive Ender to Grammy's so that we could go to my prenatal appointment. And he ended up getting into an argument with me in the car about how I was undermining him because I told him in front of Ender to just help him with his socks. And he was calling me names and just being really, really mean about it. And I told him, I was just like, he's a 3-year-old, like, and we're in a hurry. It's not fair of you to ask him to learn how to put his socks on by himself for the first time as we're trying to get out the door. But he ended up like getting so loud with me and so mean that I like started like crying my eyes out. I was way pregnant. I was not having any of this. So I ended up missing my missing my prenatal appointment because I was crying so hard I couldn't drive safely on the road. So I was like, forget it. I ended up turning around and just driving home. And I was like, I can't believe you got me in this state of mind. We're supposed to be going to a prenatal appointment. Why are you arguing with me about this? And that was just that fight. That fight just ended up starting more fights. So I feel like it was after that, I'm probably like 8 months pregnant at this point. We started getting into more fights and they were always super demeaning. He would call me, one of his favorite names to call me, aside from the C word, like the see you next Tuesday word. He loved to call me the see you next Tuesday word. He would call me a venomous C word or a contemptuous C word. Yeah, he in one of the later fights, he said that I was a contemptuous. That was a different word. Yeah, he ended up calling me a contemptuous SLUT. I don't know if I can say that on here. A contemptuous SLUT that sucks everyone in with her charm and doesn't deserve love. That's one that I will never get out of my head, what he said to me then. But so we're at the end of my pregnancy. I'm about to go into labor any day. And this is when he was starting stuff with my family. I don't remember how exactly. I think it started over the baby shower. I didn't invite our stepmom to the baby shower. I invited all of my other siblings, but I did not invite my stepmom because she had voiced so clearly in the past how she did not like
right.
Chad. And so I sent out invitations to my baby shower to every female that I was close with aside from her, because in my mind at the time, I was like, why should I have to be worried for my whole baby shower that she's, she doesn't even like us. Like it would just be fake to me.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I remember this now. And I remember,
so,
I remember the four
I
of us
told her,
getting together and talking about that.
yes,
Isn't that when we went bowling?
I think that's when we
Okay.
went bowling.
Yeah.
So I was like, so this was in the summer. I was still pregnant in 2019 when I just completely lost my spot. Oh. And so, so everybody was upset because I didn't invite stepmom to the baby shower. And I was complaining to Chad. I was like, listen, the reason why I'm not inviting her is because she doesn't even like you. And I don't want to bring somebody to a party that doesn't even want to be there. 99%, like she's not even going to come.
Right.
Like, even if I did invite her, there was no reason for me to invite her other than just to keep the peace. And at that point in my life, I just was like, I just like don't care.
Yeah.
So I was venting to Chad about that. Well, Chad decides to take it upon himself to message. I don't know who he messaged first, but he messaged somebody in the family. And then he ended up sending our stepmom a giant text message, basically ripping her apart.
Yes.
And telling her about herself,
I remember
but like
this.
in a very not nice way
It was
at
a
all.
bad way. I remember reading that in the hospital after you had Dorian and I came to see you guys, and I remember him
Mhm.
showing me all proud of himself, like, look, I stood up to your stepmom and I said what everybody's thinking but didn't have the guts to say to her. And I was just like,
Yeah,
there's no words.
It was bad.
There's no
Yeah,
words for that.
it was really bad. And so since he had reached out and flipped out on our stepmom, then our younger sisters got involved, and they were messaging him and telling him what they thought about him, and he was messaging them back, and then ended up being on the phone with I think both of our younger sisters, and then also randomly our nephew. I think he just happened to be in the vicinity, and I think he just took the phone from one of my sisters and was talking to Chad, and basically they were screaming at each other on the phone. And that was so bad. I was already so emotional and so ready to have Dorian. Like, I was way pregnant. My hormones were all over the place. Was just like crying hysterically because I felt like I was losing my family, at least half of my family, because they were upset with me that I wasn't controlling Chad. I was told by one of my younger sisters, you need to put a leash on that dog or something like that. And I told them, I was like, listen, I cannot control what somebody else does. I am so sorry that he did this. And I'm so sorry that he said those things to you. But I cannot control what somebody else does. And they wanted me to leave him because of the things that he was saying to stepmom. And I'm over here about to give birth,
You're
and I'm like,
like,
I'm not gonna. In Ohio, like, what do you mean leave him? Just like leave, just like
yeah.
yeah.
What does
So
that look like
that
to
wasn't
you?
exactly. So I'm about to go tell the children to be quiet again. They're like rustling or something. Can you hear them
A little bit.
in the recording? A little bit.
I
I
can
mean,
hear
a little
them,
bit, but it's
it is what it
not
is.
like
It's fine.
it is what it is.
If they get
I'm just
crazy,
You
gonna.
know,
if they get
as long
crazy,
as
then me and
yeah, as
John
long
can
as you
talk
don't
about
hear,
it.
yeah, as long as you don't
Okay,
hear,
cool.
glass breaking and things
Yeah,
falling, and
exactly.
they're boys, they're fine.
I just hollered really quickly, so hopefully that'll quiet them down for a little bit. So okay, so anyways, so he started all of this stuff with my little sisters and my stepmom, or with our little sisters and stepmom. And oh my goodness, then those relationships were pretty much damaged from that point on. Never repaired. The relationships with my younger sisters were never repaired. There's no reconciliation there. We do not talk
To this
at
day,
all
right?
to this day. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's that's sad, but understand that there are people in our family and probably in your family, people that are listening and watching. There is some stubbornness that runs in our side of the family. So like something that happened years ago will just, I mean, we just heard it. There's been years that have gone by and there's still a strained relationship between siblings because of the stubbornness. And I say that to say that, like, family dynamics with any family are very unique to that family. And when you have like family dynamics like we have with what happened with Chad, even though Chad's not really, I mean, he's still technically in the picture, but not in the
Not
picture in a way
in.
that Steph is explaining it. Like,
Mhm.
he's not in the picture. He's in the room that the picture's hanging in. And he's just kind of over in this little corner of the room, like doing his own thing. And he does, yeah. So, but with our siblings, it's like, yeah, I think that was a defining moment in the relationship.
Yes.
When he decided he was going to take it upon himself to either fix our family or say his piece, or say, like Steph said, to like tell our stepmother what everybody else was afraid to, which is very familiar because Bill kind of did the same thing. Like, he had to fix our family
Yeah.
and rescue our family and say things to my stepmother and my dad that nobody else was, willing to say. And like, it's again another pattern that has emerged from these types of individuals about like how they have to have control of everything, not just their significant other, but
Yeah.
everything in the significant other's life. So if she's got a damaged relationship with her father, it's like it's his responsibility to fix it. Or if
Yeah.
he can't fix it, he's going to tell her father how it is.
Yep.
And it probably didn't help. It probably didn't help that Chad is messaging or talking with our stepmother and then talking with our sisters about how he really feels and all that stuff so shortly after what happened with Bill, because the timeline here, there wasn't a lot of time that between Bill and that whole fiasco to
No.
now Chad and that fiasco. So they just went through all of this crap with Bill, and now they're having to go through it again with Chad. I just think they were just like, I'm done.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a peace out Cub Scout.
Yeah. All of this really overlapped a lot more than Steph or I even realized at the time. So you're right, John. They were pretty much dealing with Bill's antics and then Chad's antics back to back and with some overlap. And then, mind you, throw on top of it all, that Steph had her own problems and that there was that damage that happened from that as well. So yes, our family was really going through it all. And I think at this point they were really just done with it all. They were done. They wanted to wash their hands of,
Yeah, for sure.
of Steph. They had already washed their hands of me. So yeah. Oh, and
Yeah, they were done.
and it didn't help that Bill and Chad kind of chummed up. At least from the time that we went bowling. Probably a little bit
Right.
before, because that would have been why Bill set it up for us all to hang out.
Yeah.
Because he held that over my head from the time that we walked through the bowling alley door. I said something that wasn't quite right, or I was a little bit too excited to hang out with you, Steph, and probably I think I was walking a little bit too fast or something, and he felt like I was leaving him in the dust or something. And so that was a big
Oh, my
ordeal. I mean, I
stars.
remember having to choke back tears walking up to the our bowling lane to meet you guys. And I remember him
My gosh.
threatening me that if my face or my body language gave any indication that there was anything wrong, that there was going to be hell to pay. And I just remember that was
Yeah.
another point where I looked at you and Chad, and I feel like Ender was with us because I know my kids were, and I think that we had gotten the kid bowling hill thingy and the
Yeah.
bumpers and stuff.
Right.
Anyway, I just remember looking at you guys and being like, oh man, they're just such a perfect, cute little family. I had no idea yet that you guys
Yeah.
were really going through the same things that I it was the same exact dynamic really happening to us at the
Yeah.
same time. And Bill and Chad were literally doing the same things to each of us, and neither of us knew it about each
Yeah.
other.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. It was crazy. Yeah. We're really good at putting on masks, aren't we?
Yeah,
That's nuts.
you guys are really good at putting on stinking masks. Because if you weren't really, I'm sitting back here thinking, listening to all this, and I'm obviously enraged just hearing the story with Steph because it's bringing back old memories. I don't know how I stayed out of prison, and I think the only reason I stayed out of prison was because you guys put on very good masks.
Yes.
Because if you guys didn't put on masks or whatever, I have a feeling I'd be in prison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. And we haven't even gotten to the really bad stuff
No.
that happened with Chad yet. So
No,
just
we're not
brace
even
yourself
there.
for that.
Yep.
So yeah, he effectively demolished my relationship with my younger sisters. So yeah, that's that, and that's still going on today. I wonder if he's proud of himself for that. I feel like I feel like he might be proud of himself
Yeah.
for that, for
I'm
being
sure
able to
he
control
is.
a family like that.
I'm sure he is.
It's so ridiculous. Yeah, he still brings up like, well, you don't even talk to your sisters and blah blah
Yeah.
blah. He still brings that up to this day. I'm
That's
like,
because it's a trophy of his. Yeah.
yes.
I feel like the like pre-existing conditions, pre-existing problems in a family, in your family, that once an abuser has control of you, I feel like it's almost
Mhm.
like food for the abuser to be able to focus in on that problem. And as part of the whole manipulation and control tactic, to prop themselves up as like the one who has all the answers and is better than and can compare and all the things, he has to like focus in on that bad relationship or that problem that he sees in the family and try to fix it. Like,
Mhm.
what is it
Yeah, like
about
he's a
abusers that
god complex.
yeah,
Well,
yeah, like
it's
because
either
both of
either
them did
fixing
it.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's either with the intent of fixing it or with the intent of putting on a mask like he's trying to fix it, but knowing it's going to destroy the relationship,
Mm-hmm.
further isolating the victim from
Yeah.
any type of future support.
Well, that's true. I mean, and
Mhm.
that,
Yep.
because, that definitely happened. I mean, they all pulled away from both of us.
Yes.
I mean, when it happened, when each of them, Bill and Chad, were doing this, the family didn't know what to do. They didn't know what to
Mhm.
do. I mean,
And Bill was trying to do it to me
mhm,
with this whole like women this, women that,
right.
these women are, full of emotions and we need to lead them and make them submit to our authority. Like he was trying to isolate me away from Amanda because he was going in
Yep.
on Amanda.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, so that removes my potential support for you and then my potential support for my wife if it were to kept going down that road. And if
Yeah.
I would have fallen for that tactic, like that's further getting somebody else on his side and then further
Right.
isolating you guys, the victims, from any potential help from a family member or
Right.
somebody who can like step in. I can
Mhm.
really see that as being a tactic that I think it's
Yeah.
more of an isolation tactic.
Yeah,
Whether
that sounds right.
whether they know they're doing it or not,
Yeah.
it just sounds more like an isolation tactic.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. That it could have been an isolation tactic, just like him playing the long game. Like basically, like if you're not going to get with the program, then you need to be out of our lives permanently, kind of thing.
Yeah, with the ultimate goal to
So,
have you only looking to him for everything.
Right.
literally
Like
everything.
any type of support, any type of talk, any friend you might make, he's going to try to isolate you from that friend, all for the sake
Mhm.
of control, where he's literally he is the only person in your life that you are allowed to talk to. And that like it just makes so much, which is kind of like what cult leaders do. They
Yeah.
isolate their following from the outside world. They paint the outside world as bad,
Yeah.
and they're, the cult leader's viewpoint, mostly it's on a spiritual level, as the only way forward, which people buy that and they get sucked into
Mhm.
that, and that's what cult leaders do. So essentially, like, these two people would, they would make
Really
they
good
would make
cult leaders.
really good cult
Yeah.
leaders.
Right.
Because they love isolating people and ruining their relationship so that the victims can just focus on them and what they can
Mhm.
offer to fix them
Yeah.
and whatever. Anyway,
Right. Yeah. So he was definitely doing that. So let's see, this would have been in August 2000. Okay. In August of 2019. So all of that was going on in August of 2019. I was just days away from giving birth at this point. And so I remember having a couple conversations with my dad and one of our older sisters. We had I had a couple conversations with them and tried to smooth things over as much as I could, but it just wasn't happening. And so we just kind of right after that, it went into okay, Steph's in labor. So it was September 3rd, 2019, when I went into labor with Dorian and had him via C-section later that day. I don't remember what time exactly it was, but it was in the afternoon. And then again, it was something new happened in our life. Our baby was finally born. So we went into another honeymoon period. So after in the hospital, he was great. He was right at my side the whole time, waiting on me hand and foot. It was like a love bombing phase. He got me whatever I wanted, massaged my feet, did whatever I needed. He was really good. In surgery, he was right up here by my face and holding my hand the whole time. And then afterwards, he was really good at helping with Dorian if he needed his diaper change or anything. He just jumped up and was like, "I'll do it. I got it." So I'm
Yeah.
like, "Okay, now life is gonna get better.
Yeah.
Now our baby is here. Like we're just gonna be living life, and it's gonna be great."
And
That is not what happened.
this was in stark contrast to how Jonah performed
Yeah.
when his baby was being born. So in your mind, you're already like, okay, this isn't that. Like we might have had some problems, but it's
Yes.
not that. And so your
Right,
mind kind of already
exactly.
is categorizing this as more safe. Like this is fine.
Yes. Yes.
Curious. Now, you might have been about to get into this part of the story, but I'm just curious now that we're talking about the hospital. I remember when I came up to see you guys in the hospital, a
Mhm.
day or so after you gave birth, the hospital staff, somebody from the hospital staff or a agency that works with them, whatever, pulled you out of the room and did ask you if you were safe at home. And I just remember, like, oh man, I wonder what she's telling them because I was there and like me and
Yeah.
Chad were just shooting, just talking. We're probably talking
Yeah.
about our stepmom at that point because he had just showed me that text message, and I was
Right.
just like, holy cow. But yeah, so what happened with the hospital staff?
Yes. She asked me and I instantly started crying. I was like, "We need to leave the room," 'cause I, like, instantly started crying. And she just asked me, like she asked me basic questions like, "Do you feel safe?" Stuff like that. I don't think he hadn't physically harmed me at this point, so I didn't have any like marks on me or anything like that. But I just remember completely breaking down to her and crying. And then of course she goes into, well, is the baby gonna be okay? Like, and then she started asking me questions like, what do you do to discipline a 6 month old? And I was like, what, you don't discipline a 6 month old. They're 6 months. And I think it was like a trick question, like to try to get me to be like, oh, well, you spank their bottoms or you do whatever. And I was like, what are you talking about? So she went into then trying to figure out if the baby was safe to, like, I don't know, to come home with us or whatever. And after like we had that conversation. I was like, no, like everything's fine. I think I'm just hormonal. Like everything is okay. We're going to get therapy and stuff like that. Like we're safe. Like he's not hurting me, anything like that. And she's like, okay.
Jeez. Which is
And
so
yeah,
totally ridiculous because she had the opportunity to really actually intervene. And had you
right.
like, it almost seems like initially you felt like, "Oh my gosh, I could maybe tell somebody and maybe I can get help." Like, and this is happening split second in your brain, and then she switches to all the questions about
Yeah,
the baby, and you're like, "Oh, wait a minute. She wants to know
Yeah,
if I could keep my baby or if she's gonna
right.
have to
That's where I
keep
yes,
was
my
going.
baby."
That's what I was
So, of
thinking.
course, you're gonna say
that's what I
whatever
thought.
you need to say in order to keep your baby, not,
Right,
"Oh
exactly.
my,
That's where
she's helping
my
me."
mind went. I'm like, I thought that they were coming to, at some point, as soon as they started asking questions about Dorian, I was like, "Ooh, we got to switch it up. Everything is cool now. Everything is gravy. You're just hormonal and stuff like that." Yeah, that whole conversation just had me
Wow.
all over the place.
So,
I was like, "No, everything is
note
okay."
yeah, so note to anybody in that job position, uh,
Yes.
you're not saving anybody if you turn the conversation like that, gosh, like here's a woman that really did need your help. She and the baby and the 3-year-old needed to be kind of
Mhm.
rescued, and she ended
Right.
up staying in the bad situation, which got exponentially worse because you made her
Mhm.
feel like you were going to take her baby away from her, not the abuser. So like
Yeah.
she was going
Yes.
to get
And I think
punished
Yes.
for the abuser's action. Like, I'm sorry, maybe that was just
Mhm.
inexperience. I can't imagine that that's the training that they get.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it could have been, because I think that's a standard, like standard operating procedure for that. Because you go into the hospital, like when I was in the hospital, they asked me similar questions. Do you feel safe at home? And like I think it's a standard thing for them to ask patients. But yeah, I think she really messed up when she turned it on to the baby. Is the baby going to be safe? Because then, of course, your mom instincts are kicking in, like, yeah. No, everything's totally,
Yeah.
that nurse messed up.
Yeah.
She messed up big time.
Yeah. Yeah. She was She was nice, but I did not like talking to her very much. And then another thing that happened at the hospital. So at this time, remember, I am still not divorced from Jonah. So it came time for like the birth certificate, and they were going to put Dorian's last name as Smith because that was my last name at the time. And they're like, baby, or something like that. And I just remember them saying, is the baby's last name Smith or something to that effect? And as soon as Chad heard Jonah's last name, oh,
Yeah, I
maybe I
remember
should.
that was a
Anyways,
big deal.
uh,
That was a big deal.
that was he freaked out. Like he was just like, I didn't want to hear that name on the day that my son was born, this, that, and the third. And like I remember having to like calm him down and stuff like that. I was like, look, it's just they don't know, they're just asking. But he was so mad that that name was said on the day of our son's birth. Like it was like not good that that was said. Whatever. I mean, like we ended up I ended up like calming him down or whatever, or changing the subject. I often had to babysit his emotions. So if he would get too mad, this is when I would go into my fawn response, which apparently I still do. I still do to this day. I fall into so easily. I immediately went into like, oh my gosh, like I'm so sorry. I'm trying to get divorced as soon as possible. It's just expensive and stuff like that. And then he would be like, oh no, like it's okay. And he would come back and be like, it's okay. I just like didn't want to hear his name and whatever. We changed the subject. But that was another really weird thing that happened at the hospital. And then after the hospital, we had planned to go stay at his mom's house for the first week after my surgery because I had a C-section. So we go to stay at his mom's for the first week, and I'm thinking that he's going to be downstairs on the couch, like in their living room. I'm thinking he's going to be there with me the whole time to helping me in the middle of the night with feedings and getting up and out of my out of my chair and stuff. Like I still needed help standing up from the abdominal surgery. It felt like I was getting stabbed with knives if I like tried to stand up on my own. Oh my gosh, that pain is so bad. But what ended up happening is it was his mother and I that were taking care of our son in the middle of the night. So what would happen is it would start to get late. I would doze off in the chair downstairs. His mom would doze off in a chair downstairs, and he would fall asleep on a couch somewhere downstairs. And what would happen is sometime in the middle of the night, he would get up off the couch in the living room and go sleep by himself upstairs in the spare bedroom and just kind of leave me and his mom to deal with the nightly duties, I guess. And I was just trying to heal. So I didn't care to bring it up. I did not want to get into an argument and be healing at the same time. Like I was already in so much pain and I was trying to breastfeed. So I was trying to navigate that all over again. And it was just a mess. So I didn't feel like starting anything. But I think it was the third night I said to him, I was like, hey, would you mind staying down here tonight, the whole night, so that your mom can go get a full night's sleep in her own bed and not have to stay out here with me and the baby. And he was like, yeah, sure, no problem. So we go to do that, and um, he stays down on the couch for maybe a couple hours, and the same thing. He goes back up at, like, I don't know, maybe midnight, and goes and just lays down in bed. And I'm like, whatever, this is stupid. So his mom again is helping me with getting Dorian up, getting him changed. After I was done feeding him, she would help me place him back down because my muscles were not muscling. And so she was helping me with that. Well, we had just got him, I had just put him down. It was like maybe like 5 o'clock in the morning. I had just put him down, and I was getting ready to take my last like hour and a half, 2 hour stretch of sleep, because at that point he was waking up every hour and a half to eat. So I just put him down, and I went to lay back to close my eyes, and I was just like about to fall asleep, and I hear footsteps. I hear Chad come down the stairs, and he's walking right over to our son to go and pick him up after I had just gotten him back to sleep. And so this was a big thing. So I ended up like, I was like hush yelling at him. I was like, what are you doing? Like, don't wake him up. I just got him to sleep. And like he started like hush yelling at me back and forth. I'm like, what are we doing right now? He's like, he was saying to me, I just want to hold my son. Like, I came down here. This is the only thing that I wanted to do. And you're going to stop me from doing the one thing that I want to do. And I was like, I basically am still hush yelling at him. I'm like, listen, I was like, I am only getting an hour and a half of sleep every couple of hours. And like, it's not even full sleep. Like, I need him when he's asleep. I need to sleep because my body is exhausted and I'm still healing. So we're quiet yelling at each other. This ends up waking up his mom, and his mom starts getting into it with me, and I'm just like, this is ridiculous. Like, then the baby woke up, and I was just like, this is ridiculous. So now we're all just like, it's me and his mom talking to him, trying to get him to calm down because he's like freaking out. Like, he's like walking around and like carrying his phone in his hand all weird, and he's like doing this a lot, and like he's hitting his head, like doing this, like, "Ugh," like he's so frustrated. And it was wigging me out. So I ended up saying, I'm going to move the baby upstairs, and we're going to go sleep up there. Like, me and the baby were just going to go sleep upstairs and get a little bit of rest while Chad was having his freak out moment. Well, anyways, we get the baby up there all settled in the like sleeper or whatever, and Chad follows us upstairs, and it's Chad on one side blocking the doorway, and me and his mom on the other side with the baby right behind us, and we're kind of blocking the baby. And he's hitting his head with his phone over and over and going like, saying stuff like, I can't believe you guys would do this to me. Like, all I wanted to do was hold my baby. You've taken the one thing that's mine away from me. Like, he kept just being very possessive about Dorian. And again, he's hitting himself in the head, and he tells his mom is like, listen, like, we all just need to, it was like a standoff, the three of us, we all just need to go to bed, like, we need to calm down and stuff. And Chad's got his phone in his hand like he's gonna throw it, right? And we're like, Chad, stop, like, what are you doing? Like, the baby is sleeping, like, please, you don't want to accidentally hit the baby. Like, it was
Right.
nuts. And so we got him to calm down as much as possible, to where I don't know if he went for a drive or what, but he ended up leaving the room. And that was like, to me, I was like, oh no, this is
Here
not
we go
good. I
again.
feel like
Yeah.
it's going to get worse, because we were in a honeymoon period, right? But that was only for a few days. So
Yeah.
usually the honeymoon periods would last a little bit longer than that. Nope. This one was done in just a few days. So by the time we packed up and went back to live on our own, I pretty much went right back into drinking after having Dorian. I was
Wow.
like, all right. I was like, I'm not dealing with this. And it just started out as hey, babe, here's a glass of wine. Like, you haven't had
Yeah.
any in such a long
Relax a
time,
little
And
bit.
I was like, yes, that's what it started out as. So I started drinking wine. And then I want to say it was maybe 3 weeks after I gave birth, I was back to when I would drink, I would get drunk. It was no longer just like happy one glass of wine. And there, there was there was something that happened to where Chad lied about. He lied about something. He lied about what his plans were for a night, and after a night of drinking, I decided that I had the courage to bring up to him, hey, I know you lied about what you were planning on doing this one night. Why did you lie about this? And I would often bring up things that he did wrong when I was drinking because I'm, you know, dumb. I was like, this is a great time to bring this up right now.
You don't have a filter
And
then. All of your inhibitions are
yeah,
gone, so you just like, "Oh, just
I
bring
was
it
just
all up."
like, I was just like, let's just talk about it. And so he ended up um getting so mad at me that he was screaming at me. He was calling me a brontosaurus rex stomping around the house. Like he was calling me all kinds of names, an ingrate. He loved to call me an ingrate. Uh After all I've done for you, this, that, and the third. And it's because I was trying to I showed him, I was like, here are the text messages where you said this and then you told me something different. So
Yeah.
this proves your lie. And he just got so mad and he just wouldn't talk to me. So I remember we were sitting on the couch watching a show, and I had a mug, a Polar Express mug in my hand, which coincidentally, that's the night we were fighting about, was a night we went to see Polar Express a while ago. But he was not answering me. When I was trying to talk to him about what he lied about, he was on his phone or he was just staring at the TV, but he was purposefully ignoring me. And this lit me up. So I took the mug that I had in my hand and I chucked it as hard as I could at our 55-inch TV,
Yeah.
whatever,
I
and
remember this.
completely destroyed it. Okay, was I wrong? Absolutely. What person throws a mug at a TV? Like that was not okay. But I was mad that he wasn't responding to me. He was ignoring me. So I was like, I'm going to take one of your screens away. So I chucked that at that. He completely freaks out. Obviously, that ends up being a really bad night. I don't remember much else from that night except for we were pretty much fighting all night. And yeah, it that was bad, and it just ended up being like, after I had Dorian, it ended up just being night after night like that, where we would get drunk and then get into a fight about something. I remember one time we were fighting and he called the cops on me. I think he called the cops on me because I think I was talking about some kind of self-harm. I was way, 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 way inebriated. And I was just crying. Like I got to the point where I was just like crying on the floor. And he ended up calling either the police or calling for an ambulance. So the ambulance shows up, the police show up, he calls his mom shows up. So I got a party of people at my house. I'm wasted. And his mom and him ended up talking to the police and stuff and saying like she doesn't need to go anywhere, she just needs to like sleep it off or whatever. And the police or the ambulance, somebody suggested, maybe they don't sleep at the same house tonight, is there somewhere you can go? And she's like, yes, we'll take the baby and we'll go to my house. So they told they told me that they were afraid that I was going to hurt myself. So after the police and the ambulance left, they packed up the kids and they left me by myself drunk at um at our apartment. So they said that I was going to hurt myself, so they left me alone drunk
To hurt yourself.
at the apartment.
To hurt
That's
yourself.
really
Right.
like I'm sorry,
That's
but
what I was
that
told.
probably should have been the police and the EMTs or whoever was there first like clue. Like, you guys just called us because you're afraid of her hurting herself.
Right.
Maybe your plan isn't good, or you're just lying to us. Maybe they just assumed that they were lying and they were like, whatever, nothing to see here. Let her
Right.
sleep it off. Oh
Yeah,
man.
exactly. Yeah, so that wasn't a good night. And then another night, I actually ended up calling calling for an ambulance, but the police showed up first on Chad. So this was a night where just another night in between the months of September 2019 and December of 2019. So all of this, everything, all this abuse took place in just those short few months. So there was another time where we were drunk arguing, and I ended up calling an ambulance for him because he was just like in a really bad way and not responding to me in the bathtub. And I was like, okay. And I was drunk. I was like, he's had too much to drink. Like, I got to get him an ambulance. So I called for an ambulance, and the cops ended up showing up. And I was dumb. The cops like, can I come in? And I was like, sure, no problem. I'm drunk. And so I told him, I was like, he's in the bathtub, or he's back in our room or whatever. And so the cop goes and tries to get Chad to put some clothes on because he'd just gotten out of the bath and he was just kind of in pain, just like not dressed or anything. And so he asked him to like put some shorts on or put some clothes on, and Chad ended up basically talking smack to the cop and like posturing up against him. And the cop was a little bit shorter than Chad. So I don't know that the cop was intimidated, but like if you're going to posture up and you're doing it to someone that's shorter than you, like it's obvious, like you're Ugh, I don't know why you would do something like that to a cop. I'm standing in the living room watching down the hallway, watching this whole thing unfold in our bedroom. And so he postures up against the cop, and I'm like, great, that's fabulous. He's making the cop mad. He's not listening to the cop. I'm like, you're going to get a disorderly conduct if you don't stop. And so he ends up beefing with the cop so badly that the cop is like, we're going to tase you. We're going to tase you. Stop. We're going to tase you. And he just kept going. And so they tased
Bring
him.
it.
And
I
was
can handle being
oh
tased.
my gosh. And literally, and Chad, I will never forget this. After he was tased, he goes, oh, that's what that feels like? Huh, that's not so bad. I was like, oh my gosh.
It's probably
So
not as bad when you're drunk.
seriously. So he's laid out on the floor. He's tased. Exactly. And I'm just like, as soon as he gets tased, I text his mom or I call his mom, and I'm like, oh my gosh, they're tasing Chad. Crap. They're tasing Chad. And, and so, she was just like, wait, what's happening? So of course she gets in her car and she drives. Did she drive over? No, I don't think she drove over. Maybe she did later, but so anyways, I tell her what's going on, and she's freaking out, getting ready to come over. And he ends up getting arrested that night for either disorderly conduct. What is it when you basically go up against a cop? What is that disorderly conduct? Resisting arrest. He got one of those. So I was just trying to call an ambulance on him to make sure that he was okay, and he ended up getting tased and arrested and taken to jail. Disorderly conduct, yeah. And so he ended up spending the night in jail, and his mom had to go get him in the morning and stuff. And he was telling me about it. He was like, yeah, jail was pretty cool. Like the next day I called, and as soon as I got a hold of him, I was like, I am so sorry. I didn't mean for that to happen. I went into a fawn response immediately. I thought the ambulance was just going to check on you to make sure that you were okay, blah, 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 blah. And he was all, oh my gosh, no, it's totally fine. Everything's fine. Like I met some friends in
Cool
jail and they're
experience.
super nice. I had a great
man.
experience, and there's so many cool people in jail. And I was like, okay, so you're not mad. Okay,
Wow.
that's great. He just is friends with he thinks he just makes friends wherever he goes. He's just everybody loves him. And so right, so everything's fine. The he gets out of jail and we're totally fine. Like we just pretend a lot of stuff just got swept under the rug until like I would have the balls to be like, "Hey, we need to talk about this." Um, so that's when he got arrested for that. This is when I will say when he first got physical with me. It was either in October or November of 2019. And, what had happened was I was I was playing Zelda in our bedroom, and we had a camera in our bedroom because we also had the baby in there. And so whenever he napped, we'd put the camera on, whatever. Anyways, so we had the camera on there and it was going all the time. And so I'm playing Zelda, and my 3-year-old kept running in front of me, running in front of the screen, running in front of the screen. And so I grabbed him and I went to like playfully bite him, but I was a little drunk, shocking. And I bit him too hard and I hurt him. And as soon as that happened, like he yelled out, "Ow." And I was just like, I let go and I was like, "I'm so sorry." Um, I don't remember what exactly I said right after that happened, but it was like, it was like Chad got excited. He,
I
when
remember
he
this.
Blood in the
witnessed
water.
me, when he witnessed me, bite our 3-year-old, he was like, now it's almost like in his head, he was like, now I've got you.
Mhm.
And so he instantly made it super theatrical. He was just like, my gosh, buddy, are you okay? I can't believe your mother would do that to you. Like super dramatic and over the top. And I'm like, wait a minute, wait a minute. I didn't mean to. And so he instantly walks over to my 3-year-old and grabs him by his hand and is like, come on, buddy, come on. We'll take care of you over here. Like, come in the other room. Takes him in the other room, starts taking pictures of whatever where I bit him and stuff. And it's like pink. I was in the wrong 1000%, never should have done that ever.
But again, you
Um,
were playful
and
and it just,
I was playful and
stinks.
and I was drunk and I bit down too hard and so it hurt him. And he had that on video, right? So he got anyone's number who he wanted to, and he started texting that video to people.
Yeah, I remember this.
Yeah, and that was bad. I was like, "Cool, that's awesome." And then he took a bunch of pictures and he said things to me like, "Now people are going to know the real you,
Yeah.
and I can't wait for people to see who you really are," and stuff like that. And I'm like, "Were you just like waiting for me to make like
A
a
mistake.
mistake so you could like use that against me as like leverage?" I mean, that's what I had in my head. And I was like, yeah, because he got way too excited. Like he was smiling. He was like, haha, I got you now. Like he was like half laughing and stuff. So I knew that he had that video. He held that video over my head. Um, then, because of it was the same night, he ended up taking me and he said this was because I bit my 3-year-old. He grabbed me, he pulled my pants down so my bare butt was showing, bent me over his lap, raised his hand, and started wailing on my butt as hard as he could, like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times over and over again. And I'm screaming. I'm like, that hurts. I'm like, stop. Like, you're hurting me. Like, and after like 9 or 10 slaps, he let me go. I got up and pulled my pants back up. I was so embarrassed. Like, how do you like I felt like a child that was
Yeah.
getting scolded by their parent. Like he just like infantilized me like so badly, and he took away like just in that moment I was like, you actually laid hands on me. I was like, you didn't like he didn't leave a bruise or
Of
anything
course
like
not.
that, right? And it was like, I mean, it was on my butt, like there wasn't any marks that were going to show aside from it being bright pink right after it happened. And I was just like, what was that about? And he was like, that was for biting our 3-year-old. I'm like, are you serious? I was like, first of all, I was like, that was not what what you think it was. And you don't get to exact justice on me, especially like that. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Like, have a conversation with me or whatever. Like, yes, 100% in the wrong. Did I deserve to get slapped like 10 times? Absolutely not. And so this was, yeah, that was in like October or November. And then the first time he slapped me across the face was in November. I believe it was close to Thanksgiving. And I think this is when we were supposed to come to Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Was it in 2019 when we were supposed to come?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the first time that he slapped me in the face. So, I remember we were supposed to come there. I had been drinking. I was drinking every day at this point again. And we were in an argument about something. It was late at night. I was asking him like, "Hey, why did you say this? Why did you do this?" And I told him, I was like, "I have proof of it. Like, why can't you just admit to it?" And I'm pretty sure I called him a coward. I'm pretty sure I said something to the effect of, "Only cowards lie," or something like that. I used the word coward, and when I did that, he raised his hand, and it was so fast. He slapped me right across the face, and I was like, what actually just happened? And it shocked me. I took a step back, and he just like looked at me, and I don't remember him apologizing right away. I don't even remember anything happening. It was just like, I cannot believe that you just slapped me across the face. I can't believe that you actually just physically assaulted me. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what is actually happening? And like I had went to the bathroom to pull myself together and stuff like that, and I came out and I was like, what was that about? Like, I'm so done. This is not okay. Like, I'm going to bed. Do not come and talk to me, whatever. So we went our separate ways from what I can remember that night. And then the next morning he was super apologetic. "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I can't believe I did that to you. Like, I would never." Tears, crocodile
Yeah.
tears. "I am so
I
sorry.
didn't
That was
mean it.
completely out of line. I totally didn't mean to do that." And that's how his apologies would go. They would be these big crocodile tears, like, "I am so sorry." And he would just turn into like a blubbering baby. And yeah.
Any man, this goes for anybody who's listening, any female that's listening, any man who puts his hand on you, I don't care if it's the first time, if it's the 100th time, especially if it's the first time, he's got anger issues.
Yeah.
And not only does he have anger issues, he has control issues. And there
Mhm.
is no accidentally swinging your arm and slapping your significant other. That's not an accident. It doesn't
Mhm.
matter how angry that your significant other makes you, because they're gonna piss you off. That's just the way it
Right.
is. Like, relationships they're hard. They take work, and you're gonna get under each other's skin and nerves. The second he raises his hand and smacks you or does anything physical to you, there is no, he didn't mean it, or he was just, I made him angry. There's no victim blaming for yourself. Like,
Mhm.
you're not blaming yourself for that crap. No,
Right.
this is from an individual who has lack of control, anger issues, and it's not an accident. And if he does it once, he'll do it again. So if you're in a relationship and your significant other smacks you across the face, I don't care how mad you made him, I don't care
Mhm.
what you did to him, there's no, that doesn't deserve any type of physical physical assertion towards you, and
Right.
get out now before it's too late. Like, that's it. Like, one time, and it's like I hold that up to the same standards that I hold up, or most people. So most people in a relationship, they hold up, well, if you sleep with somebody else, we're done. Like, that's it. We're done. The relationship's over. It's the same standard. You got to put that in the same standard. A man puts his hands on you, it's the same standards as if he were to go sleep with some other woman. You get out. I don't care how apologetic he is. I don't care, because statistically speaking, if he does it once, he'll do it again. And I know later in the podcast, we're going to have some actual officers of the law that might probably be able to back me up on that claim and give me some facts about, hey, in your experiences, one domestic violence that equaled assault, physical assault, how often did you all go back to that place or respond to calls and all that stuff? And I bet you it's a high percentage. So I'm sorry, I'm trying not to talk because I'm getting so fumed hearing you tell your story. I'm just like, okay, I'm going to sit here and listen, and I'm not going to want to make any, do something I'm going to regret.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
yes, right.
continue.
This is all in the past. We have way moved on from this. So right. So he had slapped me for the first time, apologized the next day, up and down, said it would never happen again. Okay. Well, we partook in some recreational rugs.
Y'all smoked some weed.
The one night. Well, yeah. So yeah, we had that.
You can say that on a podcast. It's fine.
Weed-ish.
But I don't. Ish. Yeah. This is. Can I say ACID? I can spell it.
You tripped on acid. Okay.
Yes. So soon after he slapped me in the face, we got some acid from a friend, whatever, and we decided we were going to do that. Super responsible. Yes, I know. So we did that. Okay. And
did you guys play Mario Kart on Rainbow World? Because when I did that with my best friend Brian, you guys remember Brian? Him and I did sugar cubes. Side story, has nothing to do with abuse.
Yeah.
We did sugar cubes and we played Mario Kart in Rainbow World, and then it was like we were like in heaven, and then we played the Ghost World, and it's like we were in hell, and it was a trip. Oh my gosh! Don't recommend it, kids. All right, sorry. Continue.
Wow,
that's so funny. So we decided to do that. Well, anyways, the first night that we did it, it hit me so hard. It had to have been mixed with something else, because it wasn't just visual, like hallucinations I was having. I was actually like feeling stuff in my body. So I think it was mixed with something else. And I was getting really overheated and stuff. And so for the first like hour of the night, I was just kind of laying down trying to cool off. And then all of a sudden I was getting Ender ready to go to bed. And I was trying to get Ender to come over to me, right? I was like, come on, Ender, we're going to go to bed or whatever. Well, Chad was annoyed with me about something at some point. And so he said, no, Ender, stay here. You need to stay right here. And I looked at Chad. I was like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm trying to take him to bed. And so I was like, come on, Ender, like, we got to go upstairs. We're going to go to bed. Give Chad a night hugs and kisses and whatever. And Chad looks at me dead straight in the eyes and says, no, Ender, stay here. And I'm like, what are we doing right now? And so I asked him, I was like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm not doing anything. And I was like, okay. And so we went back and forth. We had this like, I don't know, this like argument with our eyes. I know that sounds crazy. And yes, I was on acid, but like he seemed to be almost telling me that, listen, I have control over Ender. I get to say where he goes and when and why. I know, like, and it was like, it's like he wanted to let me know that Ender was going to listen to him over me. I swear that's what was happening in this weird back and forth. And I was just like, I was like, okay, this is getting ridiculous. Like, he does need to go to bed. And I ended up taking him to bed, and I put him down and everything. And then later on, after I put him down, me and Chad ended up getting into another argument. And this is where he slapped me again. So this is only a few days after he slapped me the first time. He slapped me again in the face in the same exact spot. He was mad at me about something. I don't remember what it was, but it was whenever I would get in his face and I was trying to hold him accountable to something. Done. So he slapped me in the face. Then I don't remember exactly why. I just remember being like, we just went through this. Like, what are you doing? And I don't remember what his response was right away, but I was freaked out. I was done. I was pretty sure that we were breaking up that night in my mind. What he did with Ender and trying to play that weird control game with me and me getting slapped again, I was like, okay, this is how life is going to be now. I'm 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 leaving. And so after he went, oh wait, this wasn't then. No, I didn't start. Well, after he had went to bed that night, I started packing up my stuff. Like I did this several times. Like after a fight, I would be like, I'm not doing this anymore. We're done. I would pack up my stuff. And so I started packing up my stuff while he was sleeping. And then the next day, uh, he woke up to the picture frames being my picture frames being off our wall, some of our like small furniture all being moved towards the front of the house, as if like I was leaving. And he immediately starts screaming at me. He's like, you need to put my house back together. You're not leaving, this, that, and the third. He was following me around, uh, chasing me around like the house, not like running after me, but like following me, walking me around the house. And we both ended up in the garage. I don't know if I was going out there to put something away or whatever. We both end up in the garage, and he comes up behind me and he takes the back of my neck like this. So it's like if this is my head, I don't know. He like came up and grabbed the back of my neck like this, and then he pushed me down. So I had to physically bend over, and then walked me through the house from the garage to our living room like this, like a dog. And then he let me go when we got to the living room, and he said, put my effing house back together, you stupid bee. And I was terrified. I'm just like, that I just started immediately doing what he said. I just started randomly hanging things back on the wall. And I was like, okay, I don't want to get into like, because he had touched the back of my neck. I was like, I don't want to get slapped again. I don't want to get slapped again. So I started putting the house back together or whatever. And we ended up talking later. And I was like, listen, there were parts in the day where I would be sober. I wasn't drunk all day. But so we would get to a sober part of the day, and I would try to talk to him and be like, listen, like what happened? Like, what's going on? Like, why did you do that and stuff like that? Because at this point, I was like, we're going to work it out. I have to work it out no matter what. So, and then he would be super apologetic. He would be like, I'm so sorry. I never should have touched you. I never should have treated you that way. You're my queen. You're this, you're that, and blah, 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 blah. And so I would be like, okay, so like, that's not going to happen again, right? Because if that happens again, like, I'm going to leave. Like, I'm not going to be abused. He's like, no, I'll get therapy. This is when he started telling me, I'll get therapy. I'll go to the neurologist. I'll go to anger management classes. I'll do
Everything he
whatever. And I was
knows
like,
you want to
okay.
hear.
Yes, he would tell me everything that I wanted to hear. And he would even go as far as to set up either a doctor's appointment or a therapy appointment that he would never go to, but he would do that. And then he told me later on, well, I just did that to appease you. And I was like, okay, well, yeah, that makes perfect sense. So yeah, so it was again with the apologies and whatnot. And then there's a couple days that kind of blurred together, and it was because I was day drinking. I think the kids weren't here. I think they were visiting at Grammy's house. And so we had a couple of days with no kids. So I was like, let's drink, right? So we were day drinking, and we ended up getting into an argument, and it ended up turning physical really fast. In this period of time, like in this like 24 hours, he ended up pushing me into walls. Like and there was stuff on the ground, so I would trip and fall. I had a pottery wheel that he pushed me into, that I tripped and fell over there. I got bruises all over my legs from that. He would hold my head up against the wall and like hit it against the wall really fast to get me to listen to him. He put me in a chokehold to where like he didn't have his hands around me, but he put me in a chokehold, and it was so tight that I had to stand on, and so he held me up, and I had to stand up on my tippy toes to literally get air. Now he didn't put me, it wasn't a chokehold that was tight enough that I would have passed out unless I wasn't able to get I don't know. I don't think he was trying to make me pass out. I think he was just trying to hold me still and keep me controlled. So I remember grabbing onto him with my nails and like digging into him until he let me go. And I was screaming for the neighbors. I was screaming for somebody, like, because he would often take my phone. He would take my phone so I couldn't call the cops. He would block me in the house, block all the exits so I couldn't leave. I would scream for the neighbors to call the cops, but they never did. And so this is where I got a lot of abuse in one day. He again slapped me, he ended up slapping me across the face again. But it was mostly like him holding me up against the wall, hitting my head up against the wall, and like basically telling me like, you need to listen to what I say when I say, and don't do X, Y, and Z, whatever. And after that, like after a day like that, it would be later on in the night, and then he would come up to me and be like, look, like, I don't want to be like this. And then he would apologize again, and we do that whole shebang again. And so that got us until
Can you just
December.
behave so that I don't have to get like that? Because I don't like that person. I feel like I've
Yes,
heard
and
that
it was always
before.
my fault.
Yeah.
It was always my fault.
Why do you push me to
make
do this to
way.
you? Right.
If you would have just submitted to your man's authority and respected his authority, none of this would have happened, Steph. I mean, this is
Right,
really your
exactly.
fault. This is
It
your fault.
is.
This all happened because you were a stubborn female who didn't respect your man's position of authority over you as a man.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. I definitely should have been listening to my man. My gosh.
Big eye roll.
Like big
And you know
eye
what?
roll there.
You know what? You deserve to get slapped a couple times because this is some women just need slapped around a little bit to just keep them in line and remind
Seriously.
them who is the protector in this relationship.
Right.
Who he's the only man that can lay hands on you. Any other man lays hands on you, he's gonna kill him because he's the protector.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, brother. Stand down.
God, the words I have right now. Anyway.
I know. It was horrible. I think this is getting us into the December physical abuse, and this is actually when my siblings were informed for the first time that something was amiss, something was awry. So it had been another typical night, drinking, arguing, and I guess Chad decided that he was going to call my sister Jen. I don't remember, what time did you get that call? Was it like close to like 10 o'clock at night?
I don't remember, but I was at
Or
work.
was it later?
It was in the evening
Yeah.
because I was at work, and I remember I think he had to call a couple times, and I was just like, like, this is weird. My sister's boyfriend
Right.
is calling me. Like, this is out of the blue. He never called me before.
Right.
So I thought there was something wrong with you. So immediately I run to the back and answer the phone. I'm like,
Mhm.
hey, Chad, I'm at work. It's really hard for me to hear you, but like, what's up? Is my sister okay? And that's when
Yeah.
he told me basically that like, Jen, you got to step in and do
That was
something
crazy.
about her because she's nuts and she's running around the house and she's doing all this stuff. Like, all these things he just kind of blindsided me with all this stuff
Right.
about you. And I was just like, um, yeah, I'll do my best. Like, I'll do whatever I need to do. I'll give her a call. And I think I even tried calling you. Is that right? That
Yeah.
night?
I don't
I
remember.
don't think you
I don't
answered.
remember if you mm-mm. No, I wouldn't have.
Yeah.
I was way too drunk to answer.
Yeah, and I think I remember texting him back and being like, "Look, I tried to call her, she won't answer. Like, you can call me later and put her on the phone and I'll talk to her." Like, I was trying to help, you know? But
Right. Yeah.
none of it was making sense to me.
Yeah. Yeah. He basically was calling to say that I was crazy. I was acting crazy. Um, and then, I mean, because he did that, that opened up for you guys to know what was going on, because now at least you had a weird phone call that you were going to ask questions about. So this was the end of December, 2019. And so it was the very next day. Was it the very next day that I called you in the morning, and told you what was happening? Was it the very next day, or was it like
I
a couple
don't
days
I
later?
don't remember if it was the next day or like it was within a week. Within a week's time.
Yeah.
It might have been like the next weekend.
Yeah.
Maybe it was the next day now that I'm thinking about it. I don't know. But it was very, very close.
Well, yeah, so it was close. So around, late December 2019 this is happening. And so once he got off the phone with you, I was like, "What are you doing? Like, do you realize what you just did? You just opened up my family to know about what's going on in our lives." And he's like, "They need to know you're crazy. You need help. This, that, and the third." I was like, "Okay, whatever." So I don't know if it was the very next day or another night of drinking, but anyways, we start out again, another night of drinking. And he starts being really mean towards me. He's, screaming at me, calling me names, all this stuff. And I don't know if he sent you a text message or called you again or what, but he ended up taking my phone that night. And I was trying to call 911. And so he ended up taking my phone away from me, and I didn't have it for the rest of the night. And it was a really bad fight. There was more pushing, shoving, grabbing my face and holding it still, pushing me up against the wall. Loved to slap me across the face. That was great. And so the next morning, right, I still don't have my phone. Um, and this was a really bad night of abuse. And I'm like, this is not going to stop. This is not going to stop. And when I woke up, I was still a little tipsy because we had drank so far into the night. So I was still a little tipsy. So I wasn't caring about like who found out. And so when I woke up, he was still asleep in our bed. I had slept in another room. So I woke up and I was trying to find my phone because I wanted to call you and tell you what was going on. And I couldn't find my phone anywhere, but I found his in the bed right next to him. So I grabbed his phone and I ran outside to call you. And I was panicked because as soon as he knew that I had his phone, he was going to freak out. And after a night of getting abused, I didn't know what else was going to happen. So I ran outside and I called you as quick as possible. And I just tried to like word vomit to you. I was like, this has been happening. He slapped me across the face multiple times. He's done this, 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 and this, and this. And that's when you were okay, I am coming to get you. And then I think I was just oh no, you don't have to come get me or something like that. But you were no, 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 no. I am coming to get you. Pack a bag. I'm coming to get you.
Yeah.
And at this point, Ender, Ender was in Pennsylvania visiting his dad's side of the family there. So while this last bout of abuse happened, Ender was in Pennsylvania visiting family, and we just had baby Dorian at the time. And so when I called you, we were on the phone, and he actually came outside and found me. And so as soon as he came around the side of the house where I was hiding, as soon as I saw him, I was just oh my gosh, oh crap, oh crap, oh crap, oh crap. He sees me. I was oh my gosh, what is he going to do? And we had this awkward, standoff, moment where we're are you going to go this way? Are you going to go this way? He was give me my phone back and whatever. And I gave it back to him. I was please don't hurt me. And he ended up chasing me, running and chasing me back into the garage. He got a baseball bat and started chasing me with a baseball bat. I'm what are you going to do with that once you catch up to me? So I have the car in between us, and we're both doing this roundabout, who can get, I was trying to get away from him. He was trying to get to me. And he's got a bat in his hand, and I'm freaking out. I'm what are you going to do with that bat? Set that bat down, I'm screaming. You're off the phone by this point because he hung up. And he made a comment to me. I think this might have been later on, but he did make a comment to me saying, the only way either of us is leaving this relationship is in a body bag. And I took that as a direct threat. And so I told him, I was just you started this, you're the one that called my sister, and you're the one that told her, you let her believe that stuff was going on. I was the only reason why she knows anything is because you first called her and told her that I was acting crazy, and that got her asking questions. And now after this line of abuse, this night of abuse, I was done. I was
Yeah.
you've taken my phone. He didn't just take my phone. I don't know, maybe this was earlier. He broke my phone. One of my phones, he tried to break in half because I was trying to call the cops.
Yeah.
I think that was that phone.
Yeah. And
because then,
yeah, I think, he broke one of your phones. You had an old one that you then started
yes,
to use. You started texting me on that or something. You had found
yeah,
that. But, yeah, he did. He made a really good case to try to make you look like the crazy one and the bad guy.
I
But
bet.
the tone in your voice when you called me that morning, you
Mhm.
really didn't have, you could have said any words. Any words. You could have
Yeah,
said happy-ish words, and I still would have dropped everything and come to get you because the tone in your voice, I could just sense the fear. And that
yeah,
fear was very familiar to me. I knew exactly what that
right,
fear told me everything. And so I was yeah, I don't care what
yeah,
either of them say to me right now. I'm coming.
yeah.
Did I feel like he got on the phone while I was still on the phone, and I told him I was coming, and don't you
He
dare
may
argue with
have.
me. I
Oh,
don't care what you say, I'm
yeah,
coming. I know I remember getting really tough with him and being I don't care who's right, who's wrong, I don't care who did what, but I'm coming right now, and she is
mhm,
coming with me, and you are not. So figure it out. And he
yeah,
was just okay. And he hung up, and that's probably when he started
yeah,
chasing you with the bat. Sorry.
yeah, yeah. No, that's fine. He was just that. He was not having any of it. And I kept trying to tell him, I was you're the one that started this, which is, I'm so glad he did, because I don't know how long I would have kept this mask up that everything was fine, just being like, anyways. So we're at the point where you told me over the phone that you were coming to get me. I had a few hours to pack. And so I think I tried to get out of it. I think I tried to maybe make an excuse or something, because I was nervous of you coming down, and I don't know. I was just nervous of you finding out all of the things and finding out about my drinking and stuff like that. I mean, like, that it was still really bad. So, yeah, shame made me hide a lot of things. So you had made plans with Chad's mom for her to watch the baby while I came to your house for a little bit, and then we would come and pick him up another day. But just until we got through like the first, like, what's going on, um like, we were we were in the process of getting out of our old apartment anyways. So, um when I had got back to your house and we talked and everything, um, we had decided that I was going to come and live in your guys' area, which was about an hour and a half away from where we lived in Ohio. Um, and I basically was like, we are going to separate, but we're still going to be committed to each other. We're going to separate. He's going to work on his anger issues. I'm going to work on my alcohol issues. And then in my mind, we were going to come back together and everything was going to be perfect. That's not what happened. So, when after me thinking it was going to be all sunshine and rainbows, um, I I found myself again falling back into babysitting Chad's emotions. So at this point, he at this point, when I first got to your house, he didn't know what was going on. I remember we kept him in the dark for a little bit on what was going on because we were just trying to discuss amongst ourselves and figure out what exactly is going on. And so we kept a lot of things from him in the beginning of in January 2020. Um, and we basically decided that, well, I think he sent me a text message and said, like, he is so sorry, he's willing to work on whatever, just don't leave him where he's at, like, come back and stuff like that. And we got to a point where I told him, I was like, I'm not coming back right now. We need help. And he said, okay, well then I'm going to move there, and then we could both get our help and we can be happy sunshine and rainbows after that. Um then what ended up happening shortly after that? Well, so I mean, where am I leaving off of? So basically, we got there and we were just going through like the motions of, he was trying to figure out how to close out the house that we lived in Pickerington. That's where we lived in Ohio. So we were trying to close out that house and or close out the lease on it and stuff like that, and get out of there because he decided that we were going to live in the Dayton area, because he was mad at his mom and he decided that we were not going to live near his mom anymore because he said that she did X, Y, and Z, and she didn't deserve to be around the kids as much, whatever. I was fine with that because I was moving closer to you guys. So I was like, absolutely, yes, I'm totally down to move here. So he ended up getting an apartment. I signed the lease also because we were supposed to be working on ourselves just apart for a little while. And so I was on the lease. For a short period of time, it got better. I was at John and Amanda's house and I wasn't drinking. I was doing well for a little bit, and going to church with them and all that stuff seemed to be getting a clearer head. And then I would have nights where I would go over and like have dinner at Chad's house and bring the kids so he could see him. or I would let him like take them for I think I would let him take them for like a couple hours to watch like a movie over there or something like that. But we were still periodically seeing each other. But what ended up happening is those periodic visits, they grew longer. So they went in from just an afternoon to an overnight to a weekend to then me staying there for like a week, weeks at a time. And so at the time we were supposed to be apart though. We were supposed to be working on ourselves,
Yeah.
and that's not what happened. We were basically just falling right back into the abuse
The
cycle
same patterns.
again.
Yeah. And
Yeah, enough time.
I remember we were all, John, Amanda, and I were, this whole period was, we were really trying to figure out what the truth was, what was really going on. Because,
Mhm.
he started this whole thing with Steph's crazy and she has problems. And like, he was the victim. And he was just trying to
Mhm.
hold your family together and protect the kids and be a good dad. And, I think we knew you a little bit better than that and knew that, like, you might have, yeah, like we could see that you had problems, but it just, something was off and we couldn't
Right.
buy everything that he was saying. And
Right.
you had enough, I mean, you had voiced enough of your own perspectives of the problems and his problems. And like,
Mhm.
we kind of just went through all of this, me, John, and
Mhm.
Amanda with Bill. And so, all this was sounding very eerily similar. And
Mhm.
but because you had your own problems, it just threw another like layer into the mix for us. And it was just enough to throw us off to where we needed some time to get our own bearings to figure out what's really going on here. So I remember us talking
Right.
about like, because you had a really bad habit, long-standing habit of just going MIA for weeks, days,
Mhm.
months, and when you were
Right.
living here and we're supposed to be living with John and Amanda and not with Chad,
Mhm.
you
Right.
went back into the disappearing act for
Mhm.
days, and then it was like a week, and we were all like, what in the world is going on? And for any of us
Yep.
to be able to really like get you, we had to like go to your house, like something extreme,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
eh,
To just show
I,
up.
I
yeah.
know I was getting really, that was a really frustrating time for me,
Yeah, and like,
for
I
sure.
bet.
right,
I bet it
here we
was.
are trying to help, and John and Amanda
Right.
are opening their house up to yet again more family to help their situation,
Mhm.
their problem, you know what I mean? And like, we're yeah, I mean, I remember John, John and Amanda both were getting very frustrated with the whole situation. And
Understandably
I was
so.
just like, dude, I mean, I don't know. So, you know what I'll do? I think Chad was from the move, I think hadn't found a job yet. So I ended up getting him a job where I worked. And my thought to this
Mhm.
was, well, maybe I'll be able to watch him then and kind of keep tabs
Right.
on him and like, uh, maybe I'll pick up on something and
Mhm.
there'll be another layer of information then that we can then use to kind of decipher really what's going on. I can see if maybe he's acting like a normal person, like who is maybe the victim in the way he acts,
Right.
at work with other people
Right.
and what he says and things like that. So I thought, I don't know, that was my way of like, I don't know, trying to help the situation by
Trying to help.
keeping some
Yeah.
kind of
That makes
pulse,
sense.
finger on the pulse. And then
Yeah.
John and Amanda had you there, at least some of the time to try to figure
Mhm.
out your part of it. And so it's like we just tried to almost like divide and conquer you guys
Right.
to try to figure out what the situation really was that we were dealing with.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. It was tricky, and yes, I would go MIA and just like not answer any messages for days, weeks on end because 9 times out of 10 I was doing something that I was ashamed of. And so I just didn't want to talk or deal with accountability or responsibility. So I would just ignore it. And then I would drink to make the icky feelings go away. So it was bad. So um, once, um, once Chad got the job, I remember, I remember I remember you telling me, like, because we had gotten into a fight about something, and I guess you overheard Chad telling people at work about whatever fight we got into. And we would basically get into a fight. And this is how I learned that he would just talk about me to whoever. So what would happen is we would get into a fight, and he would go to work whatever day after that. And he would basically tell anybody with ears why he was upset, who he was upset with, and what they did. So like he just talks smack about me all the time to people at work, um, which is really embarrassing because I used to go and visit him at work at prior jobs before. So I'm sure if he was doing it then, he was doing it before. So that's great. So I remember him. Yeah, I remember you telling me that, and so that just added more fuel to the fire. I'm like, great. I was like, at this point, I was getting close to being checked out of the relationship. I was pretty much emotionally checked out, but I still wanted it to work out because I wanted this happy little family. I wanted it. And I was convinced that if he just got to a neurologist and got on the right medication, that everything would be fine. So a big part of me was holding out for, if he just gets to a neurologist or he gets into therapy, then we can have old Chad back and it'll be great. Like the Chad who was my best friend will come back. So I was holding out for a while. And then the last physically abusive situation happened. And after that, I was very, very, very done. It was March of 2020. We had, and both of the kids were home with us at this point. They were in bed sleeping, but they were home with us. So it was later in the night, and I remember us being in the kitchen, and we were talking about something that we shouldn't have been talking about, holding each other accountable for something, whatever. And he ended up slapping me in the face in the kitchen. And I was like, we are not doing this again. I'm not doing this again. And so we get into it. I, at one point, get to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm going to call the cops now. Like, I'm not doing this anymore. He took my phone and he put it somewhere. Don't know where he put it. I tried to leave the apartment through the front door, and I got my arm through the door, and he reached around and put his arm through the door as well, and was yelling, "Oh my gosh, Steph, are you okay? What's wrong? Come back in the house." As he's like actively trying to elbow me back in the house. So he ends up getting me back in so I'm not screaming for help. He gets me back in, and whatever, he just goes at it. We continue to fight. We continue to drink. It's bad. By the end of the night, he ends up biting me. He bit my right hip, and he bit down full force. Like I remember I made eye contact with him, and I said, "This effing hurts. Effing stop biting me." And he made eye contact with me and bit down harder. And I was like, I couldn't get away from him. And then he grabbed me. He was on top of me, and then he bit the back of my left arm. I had another giant bite mark there. And these bruises turned out to be like the size of softballs, and they were deep purple bruises. And he also dragged me down the stairs by my ankles that night. I had brush burns on both of my elbows, from getting pulled down the stairs, and also like getting slapped in the face and all of that stuff. We ended up going to bed that night in separate areas, and the very next morning, he gave me my phone. I think I instantly texted John, and I was like, I'm done. I think that's what I did. I remember because he gave me my phone back. I texted John, or I think I did anyways. And I basically told him, I was like, listen, I was like, we can be friends. I was like, we're going to share custody. I was like, but we are done. That hurt so bad what you did to me last night. And he said to me, he's like, because I said, it hurt really bad when you bit me. And he said, well, it hurt really bad reading the text messages in your phone between you and your brother. And I was like, okay. He's allowed to, according to him, he's allowed to bite me and put bruises on me because he was upset by a conversation that he read in my phone between me and my brother.
Which, by the way, he accessed by putting your phone up to your thumb while you were sleeping to unlock it. I remember him saying that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Steph, you go deal with kids because I have comments. I was gonna say that. I was like, have we not heard of passcodes? Have we not heard of fingerprint ID? But that makes sense that I remember that he put
she did have her thumbprint in there.
her phone up there.
Yeah.
And I think she what is, because this was the text, I think this is when I went over there, and I think she's about to get into the story where him and I got into it, but was that, I can't remember if this was before or after, like, I was over there again, because Chad had called us and said, like, oh, she's going nuts, she's crazy, and then I kind of gave her an ultimatum. I'm trying to figure out if this was before or after that all happened.
I want to say this was all like the same time frame, either maybe the day before. It would make sense that it would have been the day before, the day that she's talking about that they had this big fight and he drug her down the stairs and things. Because I remember I was at work. I was at work when I think he texted me and was like, your sister's going crazy. And then the next day, I think is when he showed up with the kids with no shoes on. Because my house was only like less than a mile. I think it was half a mile from their duplex. And he walked over with the kids with no shoes on. And I was just like, saying that she was going crazy and I needed to do something about her. And I was just like, oh my goodness. Yeah, it was all the same. I think we're talking about the same time period. I don't remember, though, if it was like all the same day or within the same 48 hours. But it happened really fast.
Yeah, I think what had happened, and Steph, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is before the biting and the dragging down the stairs, the day before, or a couple days before, is when he walked to my house or walked to Jen's house with the kids with no shoes on and said, we have to do something about her. And that's when I went over and gave you an ultimatum. Was that before or after this whole event?
That had to have been
before, because I don't see me interacting with him. I don't see me interacting with him nicely if it was after that fact.
Yeah, well, yeah, the ultimatum, I feel like the ultimatum conversation happened. The ultimatum conversation happened, I think, a couple days after the actual biting incident. I think it was within a couple of days, but you didn't know at the time. I don't think I told you.
We did not know that happened.
Oh wait, no.
Yeah, okay.
Not at that time. I don't remember when I actually
was
told
in the
you
kitchen
guys.
Before I got there. That was the night that we went to the police.
Yeah, because I remember the ultimatum night being the police night. That 100%
right.
went.
And he was
he
was texting me saying, if you don't get here and like help me talk to her or whatever, like I'm done with her. Like he was telling me the same thing. I think at that point that he was telling you, like, I'm going to be done with her. I can't keep doing this and dragging my family through this, for somebody that doesn't want to get out of a bad situation. Like she just seems like she wants to stay in it. And that's when I came over.
Okay. So now that we three have our story straight, let's rewind a little bit just to bring the audience up to speed, because we just kind of bounced around because we're trying to remember the sequence of events. So Steph, we left off at he bit you, dragged you down this. He got physical with you. Now that we have our story straight, we know the timeline. Okay, from there, what happened after the whole biting and all that stuff? You can pick it up from there.
Okay, so and at this time again, my memory is a little fuzzy because I was really really drunk. This was at the start of COVID. We had just purchased 2 like gallon containers of vodka. We were planning to start the shutdown off right, of course. And so right after the very next day after the biting happened, um I immediately had a hangover, so I made a couple drinks or whatever, and that's when we went to get more alcohol. That's when we bought like the 2 gallons of alcohol. We came back to the house, and we were talking about hey, I was telling him like, hey, we're just going to be friends and stuff like that. We could talk about it later, but we're just going to be friends basically. And so we ended up just ignoring pretty much what had happened the night before. And this may have been the day where he called you, Jen, and said, "You've got to come get her. She's acting crazy." Because the very next day, I hadn't had anything in my stomach, so the couple shots that I took in the morning really already got me super buzzed, and so I was drunk, crying on the stairs or in the living room, and I was saying over and over, "Please don't hurt me. Please don't hurt me. Please don't hurt me." Like I was hysterically crying. And that's when he took videos of me in that state, and took um my son Ender, and Ender was following him around the house while Chad had his phone out, and so Ender followed him into the room where I was laying down, and Chad made me say to the camera that I was incapacitated and that I was a mess, or I don't know. He made me repeat something. He's like, "Now say you're incapacitated, say you're this, say you're that," right in front of Ender. And then that's when I just told him to leave me alone, just leave me alone, go away. And that's when he packed up the kids and headed to somebody's house. So he left me there like that. And I think that's when he left to um go to your house, I think that's when um John came over to talk to me. So it was while he was gone, John came over to talk to me, and
Yes, he
I think
walked
that
to my
was
house with the kids and
yeah.
saying you're crazy, and I called John, and John went to your house to talk to you while I kept him
Yes.
and the kids. Somehow that ended up getting flip-flopped, and he ended up at John's house. I think that was later on though in the story.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was. I think he started at your house, and then ended up at my house because he was texting me, I think, as well. And then he knew I was going over there. So I'm like, I think I just said, go to my house or whatever. We'll talk when I get back or something like that.
Yeah.
Or this might have been another occasion.
I feel like it was the
Yeah, no, because I gave you the ultimatum. Then I went back to my house and I explained to him, she's coming to stay with me. And I was trying to like explain, this is what is happening.
Yeah.
She's not
Right.
going to live there anymore. This is what's happening. And you need to be okay with this. And in
Yeah.
my mind, I remember, because in my mind, I remember I need to convince him that I'm helping you and I'm not, quote unquote, rescuing you from him.
Yes. Right.
So I was like, I'm with you, bro. Like, yeah, she needs help. I'm going to help her. She's going to move in. We're going to get her help. All this stuff. We're going to take the kids as well. So the kids are here. And like, cause that was my big concern, is that he'd want to keep the kids.
Yeah.
So we're going to take the kids, it'll be healthier here, with us. There's more support. That way you can focus on you. your job and all that and not have to worry about supporting 2 kids. And she's going to get help, and Jen's going to so there's a support system. And mind too, to the viewers and listeners, like we 3 lived within a quarter of a mile from each other. So like when we say he walked, it's like a 2-minute walk from where they lived to Jen's place, and then probably another 5 to 7 minute walk from Jen's place to my place. So we were like within the same quarter-mile area. So it wasn't like he wasn't walking with the kids miles and miles and miles. This is a short walk. So yeah, I remember that. And that was after that I went to your house to confront you. And pretty much you're definitely not sober.
No,
but you were not inebriated to the point where you did not understand words that were being spoken to you.
Yeah.
And that's when I was frustrated. I was mad. I'm like, okay, I'm done trying to do the soft love approach and the supporting approach. I'm getting into the tough love approach, and if this, this girl has to change, or it's, now I'm starting to think of the kids and the relationship and the toxicity and all that stuff, because I'm now being brought up to speed on what's going on. And I'm like, okay, here's what's happening. And I basically just said to you, I was yelling. I started in on you right away as soon as I get in. I'm like, what the heck is going on? Yada, yada, yada. And I think I didn't even, I let you say your piece and arguing back and forth. And I finally was just like, listen, if you don't change, I promise you that I will call CPS. I will have your children taken away from you, and I will not speak to you anymore. And basically just gave her the ultimatum of like, shape up, or
lose everything.
You can go live your life however you want to live it, but your kids are not going to be involved in that. And I'm not going to be involved in that, because I'm done helping you. I've tried. I've opened up my home to you. We've invited you in. We've supported you. We fed your kids. We fed you. We did all this stuff for you. We haven't asked for a thing in return. I'm getting frustrated. I'm getting felt taken advantage of. You're either going to change right now, or you're going to have your kids taken away. And it was a threat that I was fully willing to like follow through on. It would have hurt me like crazy to have to follow through on that threat. And I was praying that kind of tough love got through to you. And apparently it did. And it didn't take you long to realize, oh shoot, he ain't kidding.
Yeah, I fully believed you. I fully believed you when you said those words, because like, I don't know. There's something like, just, I don't know about like the connection that I have to like you guys as my siblings, but like if you were to ever say like, hey, Steph, I need you to do this right now. Look at me. I mean it. I'd be like, okay, all right, whatever it is. If you need us to hide a body, that's totally fine. Like, I don't care. Like, I didn't see anything. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just like, because in my eyes, you guys have always been there to help me through everything. And like, not that you can do no wrong, but in my eyes, I'm like, they can do no wrong. Like, I cannot lose. If I lose my siblings, like, I'm literally done. I'm done. I have nobody left. And I was like, no. As soon as you said I will call CPS, I was like, all right. Yeah, I'm not doing this. And you said you were going to be done. And I was like, done, like done, like not talk to me anymore. No, that was a no-brainer. I was like, okay, like that's fine. I will, I need help. And that's when, I don't remember when Jen got in on the conversation. You came over.
I think she came over after I made that threat.
Yeah, I think it was. I feel like I walked in
because I texted you.
Yeah, because when Jen came over, now the conversation turned to calling the police. Yeah. And Jen had to convince you about that.
Yeah, John.
That's when,
John got you halfway to being like open to getting yourself help. And you were fine with that. And then I think John must have broached the subject of, okay, well, we still have this other problem here. And you guys were
Right.
screaming at each other when I arrived. So I remember having to kind of try to de-escalate that situation. And I don't even remember all the things that were said, but I just remember we had to absolutely convince you that what you were telling us was not normal, not okay, not just a little relationship spat, not a difference of opinion, but absolute abuse. And it was like, I feel like that night in your kitchen, I think it kind of like everything hit all of us at once. And John, Amanda, and I were all like, okay, we know what's going on now. And we put everything into trying to change the situation tonight. Not like we're planning on doing this, but tonight. Or, and if that fails, like this is our last ditch effort. We can't, we don't
Right.
have anything.
Yeah.
We don't have any other options after that. So we had to convince you to
Right.
go to the police. That was the right thing to do. We knew
Yeah.
from what we just experienced with Bill that like this wasn't going to get any better, and it was already getting worse. Like what are
Yes,
you
it
where's
was.
that going to go? Him dragging you down the stairs and biting you and slapping you and holding you against where's that going to go? He had just chased you
Mhm.
2 months before around with a baseball bat, and you're like, what are you going to do with that?
Right. Yes,
We know what
exactly.
he would do to that with that eventually. That's what was going to happen.
Yeah.
So we had to convince you to go to the police.
Yeah.
And then
I
I think we finally convinced you. Now it came to, okay, here's the plan. All right.
Yeah.
The plan is that Steph, you're going to go to Jen's now because Chad Steph, you're going to go to Jen's now because Chad is now at my house. Because I told him, hey, go to my house because I wanted to tell him what was going on.
And we
So
needed to get the
told him,
kids there, I think, too.
yeah, I said, go to my house. Okay. And so he did. And then the plan was, since Steph had agreed, the police were going to get involved now. Steph then went to Jen's, okay, so that I can then go back to my house and hold back every brotherly instinct to beat this guy within an inch of his life and fake it and go, hey, listen, bro, we talked to her in a real soft voice. She needs help. You were right. Like totally play into
his
the
narrative.
coercive control, like his narrative. And like, for me, it was, it was manipulating a manipulator. Right. So I'm like telling him everything he wants to hear. Like, you're right, dude, she's messed up. Here's the plan. What I need you to do is the kids are going to stay here. I need you to leave the kids here because they're going to sleep here and all that stuff. You got work. Just go back home. Okay. She's not there.
Right.
She's with Jen right now. Go back home. It's a safe environment there. We're going to leave the kids here with me and Amanda, and we're going to help fix all this. And that, for something I said, convinced him to leave the children with us to then go back to his house so that night we can all go to the police and say, he's at his house. Go pick him up.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is exactly how it went. Yep.
So it was a plan. It was like a night of scheming and plotting and
It was
planning
like
and
a
all this
chess
stuff
game.
and moving pawns and knights and bishops around to make this so that when we actually pulled the trigger and went to the police station to report this, all the pieces were in play. He didn't have control of the children. They weren't with him, because we had experienced this, just a short year or so before with Bill and Jen. So we're like, all right, we're going to play this way. So that ended up, we filed the police report, and I don't know what went down after that because it wasn't the exact same like process with, or the same. I don't think the same thing happened with Chad as it did with Bill. I can't remember.
It was
a little different.
It was a little different because it was slightly different jurisdictions, even though we were only a quarter mile, but like we were on the line. So we were handled by one jurisdiction and Steph's case was handled by another jurisdiction. And that was the difference.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, they tried to arrest him after we went to the police station. They tried to arrest him the very next day, but he didn't answer the door. And then I think they had some issues getting him. I don't think they got him that day. I think they arrested him 2 days after I went to the police station. That's when they finally got him. And then after the lead detective had talked to him, and I have his police report still, because when the cops went to talk to him, um, he talked for a very long time, and said, like, he got himself caught up in lies and stuff. He ended up telling them that he was lying about how Ender got a mark above his eye. Um, Ender had a rather odd kind of like brush burn slash scratch above one of his eyes. And the police were concerned that that happened as a result of abuse. And so I remember the lead detective, what was her name? I don't,
Doesn't matter.
I can
it
picture
doesn't matter.
her, but I don't remember either.
I can. So she came over to tell me that she knew where that mark, I mean, well, she came over to talk to me after they had arrested him, and she sat me down and told me that the mark on Ender's face was a direct result of Chad throwing him into a wall. And I was very confused by this because I was with them the whole time. Like, that didn't happen. I remember a couple days ago where Ender had got this scratch. It was Chad and Ender. They were upstairs. Now, we were at our apartment. And so Chad and Ender were upstairs and they were roughhousing. And I hear laughing, 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 laughing. And then all of a sudden I hear a really hard thud. And then I hear Ender screaming. And so I just peeked around the stairs and I said, "Hey, is everything okay?" to Chad. And he was like, "Yeah, we were just wrestling and he fell into the wall." And I was like, "Oh, okay." I was like in the middle of doing dishes or something. I had my hands wet. So I didn't go upstairs to see. I didn't go upstairs to see. Ender ended up coming downstairs and he got a Band-Aid and put a Band-Aid on and stuff like that. But I always thought they were roughhousing, and that Ender fell into a wall, somehow fell off the bed, fell into a wall, whatever. I um I just thought it was that. And so when the lead detective told me, like, no, Chad admitted that he got frustrated while he was roughhousing with Ender, and he kicked him off of him, and that threw him into a wall, and he hit the wall head first right above his eye, and that's why he had these awkward, like, striation marks. It was because of the drywall, because his head he flew so hard that his head put a dent in the drywall. And
Man.
so I didn't know that there was a dent in the drywall, remember? Because, like, I didn't go up there. I was washing dishes and I thought it was just roughhousing, it's fine. I didn't even know that. And and so she told me that, and I was like, I wasn't even shocked at this point. I was like, that makes sense. Of course, he would lie about something else. But then Amanda, while she was giving Ender a bath, she found a bunch of little bruises on the back of his arms and, like, on his back and stuff, like his little love handles and stuff. And there was, like, she took pictures and sent them to me. There was like a red mark, almost like a red ring in the middle of his back. It looked like somebody had bit him a whole bunch of times on the side of his arms. It was very confusing. And I know that I didn't do it. So I just assumed that Chad did it. So I'm blaming him for that. He's blaming me for it. Well, he didn't know at this time. He was in jail at this time. But so now it's like, okay, now the kids are involved. and then we had to, I don't remember how we ended up telling the detective about the marks on
She was at my
Ender.
house. She came to her and another detective came to my house while you were staying there, and she wanted to talk about that. And I remember her saying, I remember this was after they had interviewed Chad, and because I remember her saying that he was kind of giving himself up at this point with his lies and stuff. And she was saying that, you know, they both, like, they were looking at Ender at this point and saying, like, trying to talk to him and say, how did this
Yeah.
happen, you know? So
I think the two things to keep in mind here is that, one, reminder to the audience that Ender is not Chad's biological son. Okay. No bruises or marks were ever found on Dorian, which is Chad's biological son. They were only found on Ender, who is not Chad's biological son. Point number one. Point number two, I gotta give the law enforcement officers a bit of credit here by assigning this is either brilliant or coincidence. I think it's brilliance. A domestic violence call, assigning that case to a female detective. I think that was brilliant, because as a female detective with a narcissist who thinks that females are below him, he's just going to yep. And it's one thing you do not do. Like if you're in an interview room with a detective and you just call an attorney, it's fine. It's no big deal. Just shut your mouth. Don't talk, because he's a narcissist and he feels that, oh, he doesn't need an attorney because he did nothing wrong. In his brain, he's just going to yip. And it ended up going not his way because she saw right through it, of course. I just think that was brilliant on the part of the law enforcement officers and that assigned that case to that female detective.
Yeah, and she was a really good detective too. I remember when she first walked into your house after coming right from the apartment where Chad was at to arrest him. The first thing she said when she walked in was, "It's all your fault." And like, I was just like, "Huh." We all kind of laughed because like with Chad, everything was my fault. If he hit me, it was my fault because I brought him to that frame of mind where he was going to do that. So she walked in and she was just like, "Yeah, it's all your fault. He told me everything." And I was like, "Ha ha, ha, wait yet?" No. But when he really did hang himself in that in that not interview, in that police report, and I have that, so I will keep you that forever. She found out he was lying about what happened to Ender, and so that just kind of ruined his credibility when he did that police report. And then so after that, he's in jail. Now his family knows. Everyone is finding out what's happening. Everyone is formulating their own stories. Um, at this point, I don't remember if me and Chad's mom were talking or not. I think it was just radio silence for a while until we were figuring out what was going on. But basically, Chad spent a week in jail before his parents paid to bail him out. They got him a lawyer and had him all set up, ready to go, because they were told that my brother, John, and I conspired together to put bruises on me and frame Chad. So the story that Chad was telling everybody was that me and John came up with this scheme to get Chad thrown in jail. And the way that we were going to do that was by putting bruises on me. So either me hitting myself or my brother hitting me to mark me up so that we could get Chad arrested and put in jail. So he passed this story on to his family. And of course, they 100% believed it. And that
Mind
was
you,
the story that was being...
this is the family that he's treated like garbage for years.
Right.
That they just keep
We
helping him out.
believe you. Of
They-
course she did that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. They keep helping him when he gets gets himself into bad situations. So, oh my gosh, they're being so loud. Sorry, I can just hear the kids in the background. So, he gets out, and then we start the whole process of criminal investigation and all that stuff. And since the kids were involved, CPS was called. That was a nightmare for me, not for Chad, because he didn't really have to deal with them a whole lot. Aside from just telling them how terrible of a person I was and about my drinking problem and all that stuff. So he painted me in the worst light possible. And I tried to tell as close to the truth as possible. At first, I did not want to tell the whole truth because I did not want them to know about my drinking, because I thought that they would take my kids away. So I first started out kind of like minimizing that and not really talking about it much. But the caseworker called me out on that. He was like, "Look, this isn't gonna work if you're not telling me the truth." And I was like, "All right, real talk. Like, yes, I have a problem with drinking. Yes, I am willing to work on it. Yes, I will do whatever it takes, to keep my kids," kind of thing. And they, CPS said, like, when they first walked in, they were like, "We're not here to take your kids away." And, but that was just a nightmare to navigate. And then having to take the kids into the hospital within a couple of days to have them do a full exam. Like, I'm talking images taken, x-rays, MRIs, all kinds of scans to examine them for any kind of past or current abuse. So I had to be at the hospital. I feel like I was at the hospital for like 6 to 8 hours um, with both the boys, because CPS wanted me to take them. And they both now have in their records forever that they were abused as kids. Because after they took all the blood and took all the pictures and did all that, their findings were that this was child abuse, and it was both kids. Now, I didn't see any marks on Dorian, so I was super confused where they got that, but they told me that they have special cameras that can pick stuff up that the naked eye can't see. So I was like, okay, like, that's fine, whatever. I've literally never seen him put a hand on Dorian, but that's fine. These people were just, I mean, the way that I was treated in this hospital, it was like I abused my own children. Like, everyone was looking down on me. And I'm like, I have bruises on me. You can see the physical bruises on me. Like, I am like, I'm not the one that did this to them. But yeah, anyways, that was just a whole mess. I mean, that's pretty much how that, like, the story of Chad and our relationship went. I mean, we get into the whole criminal investigation and doing visitation and all of that stuff too. But basically that is like the story of Chad and I, and how we got together and our demise. But
Yeah,
he's still in my life.
Yeah, he's still around. And I do remember during that criminal investigation, stuff like that, we need to go back to your place to get like a pack and play and some other your stuff. And like he had the car keys, and it was technically your car. It was in your name, titled to you. And
Yeah.
he refused to give up the keys. So like there was an attempt to get him back. He wouldn't give him up. And then he must have had a camera set up in the apartment, because when we showed up with my truck to start like moving the stuff out,
Mhm.
within like 10 minutes,
Mhm.
and we knew he was at work, as I think we even confirmed it with Jen, like, is he at work now? Okay, cool. And then we went
Yeah.
over to get your stuff. And I think within 10 minutes of being there, here comes Chad walking in the parking lot, all huffy puffy.
Mhm.
And I'm like, all right, here we go. And I think I even prepped Steph like, hey, listen, if he comes, and him and I start getting into it, I said, you need to immediately call the police. Don't let us work it
Right.
out. Don't let us yell, because I'm fed up mode. I'm done mode. He now has shown his colors. He's an abuser. He lays his hands on, and it's going to be everything in me not to take him to the ground as soon as I see him. But if he shows up, call the police right away. So it's like he starts walking and he's coming towards us aggressively, like, "Ah!" And I'm like, okay, we're doing this. So I don't know if I let you and him kind of talk for a second before I stepped in, or if I just immediately went like, what are you doing, bro? Go away. We're here to get stuff. You don't want to be here right now. And he just starts in, and him and I, like, I think you immediately call the police.
Immediately.
Him and I are going at it verbally, and I'm not backing down from this dude, because this is now the second narcissistic, controlling, kind of manipulative, coercive control person that I have dealt with. And the first time I had this engagement with Bill, as soon as I was like, I ain't taking this yelling in my face, and I pushed him away, Bill backed off. So I'm like, you know what? We're going to see if this works a second time. And if it doesn't, and it turns to hands, I'm willing to go that way. I'm willing to go that route too. So I'm literally like, as he's getting in my face, I'm like, I'm not backing up. So I'm like getting in his face even more, to the point where he starts backing up, because I am like in full caveman warrior chief mode. Like, please give me an excuse. Just give me an excuse to take this to hands. Like, I won't start it. I won't initiate it. But I think he saw it in my eyes. I was like, freaking give me an excuse to take this to hands, please, as I'm screaming, yelling, and cussing in his face and all this stuff. Like, I'm ready to throw down with this dude. And I wanted to throw down with him so bad. I so wanted to throw down with this dude. But then within minutes, the police showed up, and as soon as they did, like, yelling, screaming, stop, I'm still heated, because like adrenaline. So they separate us. He goes out to the front. We were arguing about the car keys and all this stuff. Somehow Steph or me managed to explain to them, he has her car keys. It is her car in her name, titled to her. I want them back. And he's yelling, and he's doing his snarky comments, and I'm in the back porch, and I'm walking in going, you want to say something else? And the cop's like, bro, go outside before we have an issue. I'm like, all right, fine. I will go outside. I will breathe, and I will calm down. And we end up getting the keys. We ended up finished packing, and we ended up leaving. And that's not the last I saw of Chad. But that's mainly where the main part of the story transitions from Steph being a victim to Steph escaping and getting on her road to recovery without Chad's involvement. She never, after that day, she never slipped. She never slipped back into trying to make it work with him, or forgiving him, or just like trying to just like make excuses for his behavior. Like, she focused on herself. I know I had some conversation with the CPS guy. She had to do some program or something like that, I believe. And we started this long journey, and it wasn't like fully smooth, but we started this journey to recovery and healing. And Chad was no longer controlling her life. So at the end of the day, it ended up to where, and it wasn't just, I'm not even going to say the reason why she is where she's at today is because of me, or because of Jen, or Amanda, or hospitality, or any of that. The reason why she's where she's at today, and the level she's at today, to the point of, like, you got to remember, people, a couple years ago, she was a drunk. She was a victim of abuse, made excuses for her abuser, went back to her abusers, and not just one abuser, multiple abusers, turned mental, physical, like, this was just her a couple years ago. Now to a point now where she's gone through that recovery. We've started Fortified Freedom Network, and we want to help other people that have similar stories. And I'm not even going to sit here and say it's because of me. That's where Steph's at. It's because of Jen. Like, no. Steph did is two things. A, it's by the grace of God that she has gotten through where she's at today. God put the right people in her life at the right moments, and his timing worked out great. And to Steph's credit, she actually listened when the Lord told her, nope, no, we're doing this. She actually listened, and then she did all the hard work. She went through, didn't make excuses for anybody. I mean, she started by trying to minimize with CPS, and I witnessed this. She came fully clean. She didn't hold nothing back when she was asked by CPS or anybody about her past, her habits, or anything. She told the full truth, knowing that could risk potentially her kids being taken away or being custody being awarded to somebody else other than her. She did all the work. It wasn't easy, and it definitely wasn't fun, and it definitely caused a whole lot of strain and stress on everybody that was involved. But she made it through that, and she's on the other side of that, which is proof that if she could do it,
you guys can do it too.
You guys can do it too. So, yeah, but the story doesn't stop there with Chad. Chad is still in the picture. Without getting into a bashing session, he's in the picture. Have you ever looked up the term deadbeat dad? Chad's name's probably next to it. And he's the guy who always used to tell me, I never want to be a deadbeat dad, or he would say something like, I'm always going to be there for my kids, and I'm never going to be that guy who abandons his children. I'm always going to, like, he would talk to me, and when we did have like breakfast or lunches together, he would tell me things like that he was never going to be like his dad or something along those lines. And look what happened. The apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. Like, he's still around. He's still doing his manipulative, abusive tactics via text messages, with Steph, but they don't work. They don't work anymore. He has no control over it. And I think he knows it. Now he's just in, what can I do to hurt her? What can I do to hurt her? What can I say? How bad can I treat her today? Like, anything I could do to tear her down, and anything and Steph is, I'll give her credit. She's still trying to maintain some type of co-parenting relationship. If it were me, I'd be like, nope, you didn't pay child support, you're going to jail. You didn't do this. Oh, nope. I would have, you're trying to still be fair with him. You're still trying to be fair with the guy who slapped you and abused you and did all this for that time he did. You're still trying to be fair to him, give him the opportunity to be a good dad, which speaks volumes to your character. Because if it were me, I think we all know what I would do. I would do everything in my power for him not to see his child.
Yeah, he'd be like, see ya, bye.
I'd be like, see ya, bye. Okay. If you were abusing me, I'd be like, you're not seeing your kid either. But like I said, you have a big heart, so you still want to try to make this work. And I think at some point, the patience is going to run out, even with you. But
Probably.
he's not changed one bit. I don't think he's ever going to change. And he is the type of individual that, again, if it were me, I'm all about, with people like this, I'm like, okay, I'm monitoring their social medias. Any relationship that he gets in with another female, I'm like trying to find out who this female is so I can warn her and go, stay away from him, because it's guys like this, like, you go on his social media posts and profiles, and he's like posing with like no shirts on, playing the guitar. And granted, the dude's built. If I was a chick, I think he is hot. He's got a nice body, but he's just like it's over the top. Like, okay, this guy is full of himself, but some chicks dig that. But I'd be warning every woman that he dates from here on out, like send her a copy of the police report or try to warn her off, because if it happened to you, it's going to happen to somebody else, because he hasn't changed. He hasn't gotten help for the things that make him do what he does. Nothing has changed whatsoever. And it's guys like this, like that we're trying to like educate on, here's the warning signs, here's the things you should look for. Like the second he took your phone way back when is the second you should be like, okay, peace out, Cub Scout. Like all these warning signs are trying to throw out there for everybody. It's why I got on board with doing this, because I'm not a counselor. I'm not a therapist. I mean, I went through a little bit of the emotional, psychological, and spiritual abuse myself, but it wasn't to the degree of what Jen and Steph went through. I'm solely here to try to protect women against guys like Chad. Like when I wake up and I'm like, yep, we're doing the Fortified Freedom Network, it's me going, I want to try to warn off and protect as many women as I can against guys like Chad, because guys like Chad are, and I won't get on bashing, but you kind of get where I'm going with that.
Bad news bears.
That was my soapbox. That was my preaching moment.
Woosah.
Woosah. So what's next?
Yeah. Well, what's next in the story is, I mean, the whole criminal investigation and all of that. I don't know if you want to get into that
Yeah, I
in
don't
this
think
episode.
nobody cares about that. Nobody cares about the criminal investigation, because it really didn't go
it'll
anywhere.
Yeah, it really didn't go anywhere. He ended up getting, instead of a charge for domestic violence, even with the pictures and everything, he ended up getting it reduced to attempted assault because it was his first offense. So yeah, I got a protective order out of it for a couple years. But I mean, that didn't even, that he still was able, oh wait, no, he wasn't. No, actually, right after he was arrested, after that week, there was a couple things going on. There was the criminal investigation that immediately started. And so we were dealing with that. But it was 10 months after he was arrested before his mother came forward to request visitation through the courts for her. So they waited 10 months to try to get any kind of visitation with Dorian. I was super confused by that, why they waited so long, but those were that 10 months where he wasn't trying to see or wasn't doing anything with Dorian. That was, aside from going through a criminal investigation and everything being really stressful, I had like my peace of mind, a part of my peace of mind back, because I didn't have him to deal with in the background with that. He didn't file. His parents ended up buying him a lawyer, and then they filed for, or they had his lawyer file to get visitation and custody rights and all of that stuff in, let's see, I think it was in the first of 2021. August, September, October, or maybe it was I think it was December of 2020 that that he got a lawyer and tried to start some kind of visitation. But you have to remember COVID was going on. And so a lot of our hearings were stretched out, like it was so long in between hearings and stuff. So he didn't actually get to see Dorian again until I want to say it was almost, I think it was more than a year. And so like it was just he waited too long. I don't know. There's a lot of questions I have. He waited too long, but then that just gets into the whole mess of the custody battle and how we're still kind of dealing with that today. So it's an ongoing thing.
It's an ongoing thing, but I think the main point is that you're no longer dealing with the abuse part in the relationship. Right. Like you're still dealing with crap. You're still dealing with BS from him, like crap from him, but it's not controlling you anymore. It's not, you're not under the control spell. You don't have fear. You're not living in that fear state anymore. You are living on your own. You have your own job. making way more money than he is right now. You know, you have both of the boys, and they are doing really well. There's a support, like all the good things that could come out of a really bad relationship, a real negative thing did. And yes, there's still cleanup to do, but the bulk of it is, I think it's safe to say, is over with, and you have moved on, and you're moving on with everything, and he is not affecting your life like he once did before, you know. So I think that was the point I was trying to make. The custody with the kids and all that stuff, you know, that could be put in the story, but as far as the context of abuse and stuff, that's the victory here is that you did get out, and, you know, this is the story of how you got out. So we can leave it at that. We could talk about the custody stuff. That can come up in later. I mean, it's going to naturally come up in later episodes and stuff like that. All this stuff is going to come up in little bits and pieces, but we just wanted to do these first 6 episodes to kind of tell the entire story to its entirety, to the most detail that we can remember it, so that there is a baseline reference for people to come back to, you know, if they wanted to kind of dive in and hear the different stories of things like that. So, but I think with that, we're going to wrap this one up. And I know we got some exciting episodes coming up in the future. We have some people we're going to bring on, some professionals we're going to bring on to kind of talk from a professional standpoint about coercive control, domestic violence, you know, abuse, things like that from a professional standpoint. And we got some law enforcement people lined up. We just got some things in the pipeline right now that are pretty exciting to people to talk to. So you don't have to hear our voices all the time. We're actually going to bring some experts on. So I'm pretty excited about that. But for now, I think we're going to wrap with that. Thank you everybody for sticking with us. If you have, if anything with Steph's story resonates with you, you feel obligated, or you feel you want to share that, just drop a comment below. And if you have a story yourself and you're brave enough to, maybe you want to come on the podcast and tell your story, leave a comment below, and we will, somebody from our team will reach out to you in a DM and see if we can't coordinate something. That would be awesome. That's one of the things we want to do is, try to get more survivor stories, survivors to actually come on and tell their stories. Because there's nothing more powerful than hearing a survivor's story, from a perspective of somebody who's in an abusive relationship. Because I think the more victories somebody in an abusive relationship hears and stories of people getting out and the different scenarios, I think the more likely they are to actually reach out and go help, and we can help you with that. So, with that, thanks everybody. We will see you on the next one.
See ya.
Thank you for listening to the Fortified podcast. If you enjoy